item that you have brought up, obviously you more time, just want to get forward what you're sharing. But those who want to add comments to that, keep 2-3 minutes. That helps others have a chance to speak to the items as well without prolonging the meeting. And all the information is on the website, clerk's office, so you got a chance to review that and I'm prepared for our meeting tonight. So hope you've seen all that correspondence. I believe that covers the general announcements we need to make on items 6 and 7. We'll move to item 8, which is our consent agenda. There are several items on the consent agenda. 4. Let me read those for the board and I'll receive a motion. Item 1 is a calendar consideration to approve to accept the first payment from the U.S. Department, approve the audit calendar for fiscal year 2021 and 2022. Item 2, agreement consideration to approve the location agreement for Historic Effingham Society to host the Fall Festival on October 16, 2021. Item 3, consideration to approve a memorandum of understanding between Savannah Technical College and Effingham County EMS to allow students to ride on ambuses.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman. Jack Garvin, Clive, Georgia. What is this money going to?
You can't speak on the consent agenda.
Pardon me?
This is the consent agenda. We can't take any comments on the consent agenda.
Okay.
Let me read all of them and then I'll see what I'm trying to say we can do. Item number 4, consideration to approve to ratify and affirm acceptance of a grant award for the Georgia Secretary of State Secure the Vote, Help America Vote Act, HAVA grant. Now that's our 4 consent agenda items. Since we have a gentleman who wants to speak, I'll go to our attorney. Is there any precedence? He can speak to that?
Yeah, you just need to read through what you did, and now if he wants to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I apologize for interrupting you. What is this money going to be used for the Voters Help of America? How is that being used by them?
You know what? Hold on for 1 sec. Olivia, are you on the call? I think she's on mute.
We're going to just review the executive summary.
Yeah, I'm just gonna read the executive summary if you give me a sec. All right, so in the 2019 regular session, the Georgia legislature passed HB 316 and approved bond funding of up to $150 million to provide for new verifiable paper ballot statewide voting system for all counties in the state. In 2018, Georgia received funds from the Help American Voters Act, some of which the Secretary of State had authorized for direct grants to counties. These grants were for the purpose of bolstering cyber and physical elections system security, making polling places and voting more accessible, and providing for general purposes of implementing the new secure voting system, or statewide voting system. Effingham County Board of Elections and Registration purchase items have helped with the implementation of the new voting system. This award is for the amount of $9,555.80. And security and accessibility grants will be reimbursed on a 3-to-1 basis up to $15,000.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Always appreciate your attendance and input. Do you have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Make a motion to approve the bid.
Second. Motion by Mr. Lopez, second by Mr. Burdette to approve the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. And carries. The old business has been removed, so we'll move down to new business. Item number 1 on new business. Consideration to approve American Rescue Plan Act, ARPA, Grant Fund Disbursement Plan.
Good evening, Christy Carpenter, Finance Director. This is the American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA, that we've been discussing for weeks now. We have already received the first disbursement, and as such, we have to provide the Treasury with a plan of how we will use those funds. And that's what you have in your packet. You will see that we are using approximately $13.5 million for these projects over the term. The majority of that is water and sewer, upgrades and repairs. Staff recommends approval. Alternative number 1.
All right, any questions or discussions from Ms. Christie from the board? Have a motion to approve?
Make a motion to approve. Second.
A motion by Mr. Loper, I'm sorry, Mr. Deloach. Second, Mr. Loper. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And it carries. Item number 2, consideration to approve a letter of engagement between the Effingham County Board of Commissioners and Lanier Deal and Proctor for audit services.
Yes, sir. We are recommending the approval of the engagement letter with the Lanier Deal and Proctor. For fiscal year 21, we do anticipate having a single audit due to the amount of funding received from the CARES Act. So the cost of service should not exceed $52,900. Staff recommends approval. Alternative number 1.
Quick question, how long have they been doing your audit?
This will be the 7th year.
7th year?
Yes, sir.
Probably look at doing something different
Yeah,
next year.
I think we need to, probably look too late this year, is going to be time, but I think we need to go on record that maybe looking at putting out an RFP on this.
And they did audit us a couple of years before we did an RFP. This is, I think, their 5th year under the new one, so.
Contract, that's fine. And there's an advantage when you have 5-6 years, but as a previous auditor, I know we kind of get in the rub, we do the same thing we did the year before. It's good to get fresh eyes to come in and look. And of course, if they're the best price and still quality frame, they stay looking, to be worth looking at for next year.
Sure.
So that was good. But with that comment, have a motion.
Make a motion to approve alternative 1.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Floyd to approve alternative 1. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Carried. You have your auditors.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item number 3, consideration to approve renewal of the solid waste collection recycling service contract to Land Waste Services Incorporated.
Good evening, Allison Bruton, purchasing agent. The county currently has an agreement in place with Atlantic Waste for the solid waste collection and recycling services. The initial term of this agreement was February 20th, 2018 through June 30, 2021, with 4 single-year renewals unless terminated with notice by either party. Staff was notified on July 16th that effective August 1st, Atlantic will be increasing the wastewater sludge rate from $54 per ton to $60 per ton. So I wanted to make a note of that. That wasn't on the staff report. But given that information, staff is recommending alternative 1.
And what year are we in on this contract?
This will be year 5.
I'm going to go on record as saying I think they've been, I don't know about you, my phones have been quiet since we changed to Atlantic. They're doing a really good job, I believe, of pitching in when we have holidays or storms, providing extra bins, doing many things. There hasn't been a lot of peace since we've changed to Atlantic Way, so we'll just give some kudos.
I know I don't have any complaints.
Well, they work with us real well, so I really appreciate Atlantic Way. But anyway, with that comment, I'll entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve order number 1.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Loper, second Mr. Deloach, to approve alternative number 1. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Hearing none, it carries. Item number 4, consideration to approve a resolution of surplus. This is a property, this is number 021-036, which consists of county vehicles.
Yes, sir. So this resolution has 1 vehicle listed. A new fleet vehicle has been obtained through the contract with Enterprise to replace this vehicle, and it will become a part of the administrative pool vehicles. The car originally was with the tax assessor's office.
Those vehicles have been, I saw on the project list, has it been delivered yet, those vehicles?
One,
One.
which actually, I mean, there's obviously been a delay because of the factory delays, but it was actually worked out well getting one vehicle in, going through the process of surplusing and replacing it, so when we get the massive delivery in,
You'll have your processes.
we've gotten the bug out of the system.
There are 5 others that are in the manufacturing process now that have been assigned VINs, but we don't know when those will be delivered yet.
Very good. Any questions from the board? Motion to approve alternative 1.
So moved.
approve
Motion by
alternative
Mr. Deloach to approve alternative one. Second by Mr. Floyd, is that right?
Sure.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion carries here unanimous. Item number 5, change order. Consideration to approve change order number 2 for contract 19-25-001 with Parker Engineering LLC for engineering services for McCall and Blue Jay intersection improvements.
Yes, sir. Can I shoot this one? So Parker Engineering is the design engineer for the Blue Jay McCall intersection. Sorry, did you want to see what his question was first, or
Did
keep
you
going?
want to see something?
Yeah, Jack Goggins from Fire, Georgia. I'm interested in, we pay 8 cents a pound now to dump. What is it gonna go up to? Do you have any idea?
I don't. I can try to find out.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Tim.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
You know, I asked him that very question.
It's not included in this agreement, but we are looking at a 1 cent per pound increase, but that would come later.
Okay.
But it stays the same for now.
Okay.
I think that's too high, Jeff, and I do. I'm getting a lot of stuff out here.
So back to Blue Jay and McCall intersection, you may recall that the contract for the construction was approximately $300,000 under the budgeted amount. Change order 1 was approved in May for Parker Engineering to, I guess, try to come up with some other solutions for that intersection. Change order 2 has been requested for the specific design plans totaling $10,000, which would bring their overall contract price to $79,000. Staff's recommending alternative 1.
Mr. Chairman? Just for clarification, we decided to include, obviously you know what the the original contract was for the connector from McCall to Blue Jay.
Right.
This is to include in the project as a change order where McCall intersects Blandford, you know, that tough turn right there.
No, you're talking about the one that goes, if you turn off to the right, when you come into Blue Jay, you're not talking about this old road, are you?
What?
You're not talking about the old road. Am I thinking of the wrong
It's
place?
the other side of the railroad tracks, right, from where
Yeah.
they're working now.
Okay.
Either if you're coming north, you're coming from Blandford Elementary, Omnitracks, where it intersects Blandford Road right there. We wanted to design some improvements associated with T-spots. So since they've already doing the work on that existing one, we're going to extend that contract to do just some design improvements on that, just some turn lanes, so it doesn't back up like it
That's
normally
on
does.
the east side of the railroad track.
That's right, on the Rincon side.
That's excellent. Man, we've been crying for that for a while. That's a good call, I think.
I agree.
If anybody in this courtroom chambers has ever been in that line, after picking up the schools, they're out trying to get on the Blue Jay, we appreciate that. Okay. Any questions, discussion? Motion for alternative 1.
Make motion to approve alternative 1. Second.
Motion, Mr. Roper, second, Mr. Deloach, to approve alternative 1. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion carries here unanimous.
Thank you.
Item number 6, consideration to approve and verify a speed limit list provided by the Georgia Department of Transportation for all off-road systems, off-system roadways, I should say.
Good evening, Commission. Eric Larson, Assistant County Manager. This agenda item is a bit of housekeeping. The Georgia Department of Transportation has asked us to ratify these or adopt the speed limits on the posted roadways throughout the county and the state routes. Their main focus on this really is to try to get the changes they're making to the school zones in effect. They're putting in new, the school system's putting in detection devices for speeding at school zones, and this would allow them to do that. But at the same time, their housekeeping is to adopt the speed limit for all the county roads once again. So they presented the list, which is in your packet. It has been confirmed that it's correct through the staff. I communicated with the Sheriff's Office and had them review it as well to make sure that it was correct, and would recommend that you adopt the list as the speed limits for county and state roads within Effingham County.
These are state roads?
No, it includes the county roads as well.
Okay. All the local roads, like inside?
Most local roads outside of subdivisions. I noticed subdivisions are not included in this, but these are the routes, Blue Jay, McCall.
Collector roads?
Yeah, our collectors, yes, sir.
Okay. Any questions, discussion? Motion for alternative one.
Make a motion to approve alternative one. Second.
Motion by Mr. Burdette, second by Mr. Kiefer for alternative one. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Hearing none, carries. Item number 7, purchases. Consideration to approve the purchase of furnishings from office service furniture and supplies for the administrative building.
Yes, sir. Again, it's Eric Larson. You just finished a tour not too long ago of the building. For those that attended, you see that construction has progressed to the point where we're painting and laying carpet, and we're going to need to furnish the building soon. We've been going through the inventory of all of our existing furniture that we have in storage or in use in other places, and including the furniture that was in the building when we purchased it. And this order of furniture is to supplement what we can salvage and reuse or move over to the new building, in addition to, and then purchasing a new furniture to fill the building out. If you've been through the building, which most of you have by now, the space is not as wide and spacious as some of our existing offices. And so being efficient with our desk and our file storage is very important. And a lot of our stuff, our furniture that we have in storage or use existing just will not work. Some of the desks are just literally too big for these office spaces. So we've selected a style of furniture out of the state contract. So the same price, we can get the same price from other vendors, and it's the negotiated state contract rate. And you have that long list of parts and pieces to create all the desks, the file cabinets, the conference tables, the chairs, etc. in your packet. Total expense for that is $175,280.64, and staff would recommend approval for that amount.
That's a lot of money.
Yes, sir. It's a lot of furniture. It is. But what is not state contract, I didn't say this and I wanted to point this out. If it's not state contract, it's below state contract, because we are buying some floor pieces and some clearance pieces from their warehouse. So we're even getting those at a lower rate.
And I even got a conference table on Facebook.
Yes, sir.
And we won't have to sit on newspapers up here anymore as people exhibits.
No,
Okay, that's good.
No.
that I promise.
Very good. Any other questions or discussion? Is there a motion to approve alternative one?
Make a motion to approve alternative one. Second.
Motion by Mr. Burdette, second Mr. Floyd to approve alternative one. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Hearing none, carries. Item number 8, consideration to approve a warranty deed to accept dedication of 1.04 acres from Roger Corsi as a portion of the right-of-way for Josiah Morgan Road.
Thank you again, Eric Larson, Assistant County Manager. This is the acceptance of a dedicated right-of-way for a portion of Josiah Morgan Road. It is approximately 1.04 acres. It is 1/2 of the width of the road across Mr. Corsi's frontage. As you read in the background, over the years in the 70s, Mr. Corsi had acquired 187.4 acres of property and consolidated those into his homestead. Over the years, between 2001 and 2020, staff researched and verified the information provided by Mr. Corsi and his attorney, and he has sold off all of that land minus this 1.04 acres. As he sold the land off, he excluded the right-of-way of the road, and so now that all of his holdings and interest in that property is gone, the only thing that's left is 1/2 width right-of-way across the frontage of that property. We are willing to accept it because we have been maintaining that road. It is not a full right-of-way, obviously, but over time, we hope that it will be, and that's always our ultimate goal, is to acquire right-of-way for all the county roads that we maintain. Staff recommends approval.
Any questions or discussion from the board?
I'll make a motion to approve alternative one.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second Mr. Loper to approve alternative one. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Hearing none, carries.
Thank you.
Item 9, consideration to approve the intergovernmental agreement between the City of Guyton and the Effingham County Board of Commissioners to allow the election boards of registration to run the 2021 municipal election.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Guyton has reached out to the county requesting that the county elections and registration office conduct its municipal elections in 2021. Guyton is currently in the process of hiring a new city clerk and city manager, and thus does not have anyone certified on staff to run anything but the qualification and ethics portion of the election. As a matter of fact, they're in the process of getting certified just to do that. Effingham County's intent is to run a countywide election for the reimposition of SPLOST on the same day. Also, on the agenda tonight is the call for referendum for an e-commerce or Freeport exemption referendum on the same day, both countywide. Therefore, we requested, since we will be running the election at those precincts there on that day anyway, that Guyton reimburse the county based on a formula. We've gotten some input from the elections supervisor on this. And so we kind of figured out that she had mentioned that the cost to run the last countywide election was $6.15. Staff has recommended that we charge 25% of that to Guyton for the cost of including their election for their registered voters as well, for a cost of $28.09 and 13 cents. If there is a runoff, and then in that case, it will be actual costs that they will be charging. We will give them an estimate and invoicing before the election because we will be fully responsible for staffing a advanced voting and an election day with no county election on that date. So those expenses will be figured out if there's a need for a runoff. Staff is recommending alternative 1, which is to approve the IGA between the City of Guyton and the Effingham County Board of Commissioners.
Well, I think this is a good example of the county and our communities working together.
And one other point too, I did make this similar offer based on the similar formula to both Rincon and Guyton. And since they have staff already that are certified, they have chosen to. Springfield and Rincon. And since they already have staff that are certified, they chose to continue to run their elections on that day.
Making the time in the future.
That's right. When we have a little bit more time, we can come up with a formula that makes sense.
Cities a little funds, and when the next election board is for it. So it's good. Any questions, discussion? Motion alternative 1.
Make a motion to approve alternative 1.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Burdette, second by Mr. Kiefer to approve alternative 1. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Hearing none, it carries. Item number 10, annexation. Consideration to approve annexation agreement as submitted by the City of Springfield for properties located at Highway 21 South and Ron Station Road. This is map number 429-6 in 6A.
Mr. Chairman, you all have your staff report that was written by staff. We do have a representative from the City of Springfield, the City Manager, Mr. Matt Morris, who will speak on this item.
So I'm here to answer any questions that you might have. I know this parcel may seem out of line, but over the last year or so, we've been having conversations with the owners in the industrial park. And so we have 3 that are ready to move forward with their own petitions. This one is out of line because these petitions came earlier than those conversations had, but the plan is long-term for the City of Springfield for their limits to begin at the industrial park and move north till we connect with Springfield proper. Obviously this is across 21. But we're in September, we'll start adopting an overlay district plan that coordinates the access, the egress, the street lights, through roads for all the commercial districts from what would be now the industrial park until you get to Springfield so that we can relieve some of that congestion along Highway 21. So that this will make a little more sense going forward. Unfortunately, I wish we had that in place now, but we don't, but they will hear it in September. But that is the plan long term, is that we have a large portion of the industrial park willing to come on. And we can handle those piece by piece, or we can go a 60-40 roll. Unfortunately, like I said, but these folks came they're ahead of the curve, but they want to get into the city, and we wanted to give their petition the time in front of you to see if there are any questions we can answer.
I'll start off with a couple of questions. Perhaps I'm never against annexation when it's contiguous and it expands. I'm all for it if the cities take on those additional services. I have a little bit of concern about when it's so far. So what's the distance between this? My thoughts on annexation, it needs to be contiguous when it's private property. Because you have in the city, out of the city, it gets confusing. I'm not sure what the advantage is of this property being put under the city of Springfield or any private property that's not contiguous.
Well, one of the biggest assets of being underneath the city of Springfield is our police department. So we will thoroughly patrol this property as opposed to responding to a call. Unfortunately, Mr. McDuffie only has limited staff, so a lot of times they can respond when they have to, not continually throughout the day, throughout the year, throughout the night. So that is one of the biggest assets to coming under the city, and that is what will take place throughout the industrial park. And these properties, at least specifically the one on the corner of Brown Station and 21, they're already utilizing all of our services as far as water, sewer reuse. So they're already a customer of ours in that respect. They will just then go through the building process underneath our flag.
Obviously, before there's any question, there's just a lot of properties between that property up to, I guess, the ballparks that we have annexed inside the city. I'd love to have the sheriff, has he got a comment he's made on this? Because we have 147 deputies and 6 patrol zones, and I'm surprised they're not patrolling this area.
I'm using what my police department tells me, which is even fully staffed, they still need more, and I'm sure Jimmy probably gets the same comment from his guys. You're always going to need more public safety regardless of what you have. You're always going to need more.
You can help us with that. And how many patrolmen do you have in the evening time?
Right now,
say after 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock.
We'd have 3.
3?
Yeah.
And they're on duty all night?
Yes.
Jimmy, what's your thoughts?
This is the first I've heard about it. We have 8 on at a time. Of course, we would do it just like we would anything else. We'd patrol it like we do the rest of it. I hadn't heard of any plans to annex it, so I'm not prepared too much to speak about it, but it's just another thing to deal with, like we do with everything else. So.
But you're currently able to handle it?
I think we can, unless we're looking at a major crime spree to happen there. Patrolling it would be just like we do with anything else.
I got you. And so what I'm always, we don't usually annex property unless it's contiguous, unless the city or the county owns it.
Right.
That's like the treatment.
Our treatment plant.
Yeah, because that just makes good sense as partnership. So I'm not for this personally. I'll let the board speak too, but I think we create local islands. I'd rather see contiguous and move down the road, get that corridor where it's a commercial district that the city of Springfield has, and take over those service costs and,
So we took the treatment plant in 2014, and then across the road here recently, the rec complex came in. So those borders are moving toward one another annually.
There's one parcel between this parcel and the park, through Rock Road direction, right?
Correct. I believe that's.
Yeah.
well, there's a bunch of parcels, but you said you could get one
You
parcel.
can get there with one parcel.
It would be contiguous.
Yeah, with one parcel.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we are having conversations with that owner in conjunction with the industrial park owner. So it's just, there is a plan in place to make this contiguous. So the intention obviously is not for this to be an island by itself. It's certainly not an island as far as we're concerned. I know the way it might look on the map for the next few months would appear that way, but there is a plan in place to consume all of those properties.
I'm not against the industrial park, because I know the advantages of that being within the city and what it do for the city of Springfield. So, you don't have any, I don't think Buckingham from the board to be recognized what that can do.
No,
Revenue-wise.
there are dollars leaving the county that are going nowhere right now.
That we can't do, so I get that. I'm just looking at this curve here. There's a lot of properties in between. talking with all these property owners, do we have some consensus among them? Where's that going?
I would say right now we have probably 60% of the industrial park north side of Ebenezer. We have 60% of those ready to come in.
That's industrial. How about the properties on the other side, 21, the west side?
On the west side, there's one large property owner there that I've had conversations with, and they're not against it. They haven't given us a petition yet, but they're not against the annexation. So you largely have one property owner right now holding up the contiguity of this one parcel.
What is the overlay district? I mean, what does that look like? What does that do?
So we paid Thompson Hutton to come in, and they met with the city council, and we have a full commercial corridor is what it is, so that you would have rear access roads, which are front access for the commercial parcels, so that you don't get the curb cuts off of 21, you don't get the lights off of 21. So we have a very detailed plan going forward on how to accommodate what we believe to be the future growth coming in Springfield, because there's going to be a lot of growth coming in that section of Highway 21.
So you're creating a plan for future commercial growth?
Correct. We have the plan ready to be adopted. It won't hold over these properties in regards to the zoning, but they will be required to comply with it when they come in down the road.
Mr. Chairman, I had some reservations about this as well, but some further conversations with Mr. Morris, talking about the future plans of what he was going to do and create. It made a little more sense to me, because I know in the past we got a request from Guyton, but it did appear that there was an in-depth plan like the city of Springfield here has. It seems like they've got a very in-depth plan, to benefit the surrounding citizens.
And to that, Guyton, we let them annex the land that's not contiguous to the city limits of Guyton. Today, you go out of Guyton, and then you come into the city limits again in Guyton. And also, we've let Rankin annex a couple times. One of them on McCall Road, not McCall Road, Blue Jay Road.
Yeah, but that's property they own.
Do what?
That was property that they own.
It still wasn't contiguous to what they own, what they had.
Yeah, but if you recall, that was so they could have a fire station inside the city limits, which gave them ISO 3, and that's what the commission supported that, because it got the overall fire district. And they couldn't get that without having two within the city limits, and 5 miles.
But still, we let them,
Right.
they had a reason to do it,
Correct.
and he has a reason to do it also. It's just a different reason,
Yeah,
the way I look at it.
I just knew which, so we denied Guyton, private property owner, coming in because it was contiguous, and I want to make sure we're consistent with
That
that.
was my only concern. Is there a time frame as to when these other folks may come on board?
Next 18 months is their plan.
And that's the industrial part.
Correct.
But are you looking to go
That-
up the 21 corridor all the way to the ball fields and make that a commercial corridor? That's your
Yes,
plan?
so through the overlay, all of that will be a commercial corridor, and then once the properties come in through annexation, obviously they'll be tied to our code as opposed to the county's code. But yes, there's one large property owner on the west side of 21 that hopefully we're near the end of the conversation to get them to concede and come on in.
I have reservations, but I'll yield to what the board, they'll vote. I'll yield to that.
I do, but it crosses a big hurdle for me that the landowner is requesting it. That's a big thing for me. It's not just being imposed on them.
And that is the whole gist of the argument tonight. I mean, we're doing this on behalf of them.
Sure. I think that y'all have this plan to tie it all together, which helped me support like what Commissioner Luke said. Otherwise, I would say it would be like the guidance situation.
I agree. Before I got the deeper details here of what they're really trying to do, I wasn't really bored as much, but it seems like they've got a good plan here to do big things.
Wouldn't mind seeing that plan sometime. I haven't seen that.
I'll be glad to share it with you. We tried to set some meetings up. They did not happen prior to this, and I do apologize for that. But yeah, the plan is open. I would love for, I think a lot of cities need to adopt it because it has been very thoroughly vetted as far to, because we're getting ahead of that curve of when the growth comes in, and which is where I think you need to implement these plans.
Yeah, I know annexation usually follows water and sewer, so
Correct.
that's why I'm not against annexation at all.
No, so this follows our water and sewer. It stays in our service delivery.
It'd be contiguous.
And it will be as fast as possible.
I still have reservations, but I yield. There's a lot of good wisdom on this board, and I appreciate what they say. Any other question or discussion? Do I have a motion?
Based on the fact that the city of Springfield has a plan put in place to make this contiguous, and the fact that they are being petitioned by business owners in the industrial park, I mean, I support it, and I'll make a motion to support the annexation.
Second.
We've got a motion by Mr. Deloach to support the annexation. That's alternative one, right?
Alternate number one, yeah.
Yeah. So alternative number one in the motion. And then a second by Mr. Loper to approve alternative number one. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Hearing none, it carries.
Thank you.
In the city, pretty soon. Item number 12.
I got to sit down on this one.
All right, if the clerk would note that Mr. Loper has stepped down. Item number 12, which is consideration to approve a final plat for Fair Street subdivision location off of Fair Street, map 422, parcel 3rd district. Do we need, did you take mine? Did you step down?
We probably should.
Mr. Loper, can you for the record, can you share why you're stepping down?
Because of me.
Conflict of interest,
Oh, okay, conflict of interest. Very good.
conflict of interest.
Sounds good. We don't want to show the record, we just deny talking about this item.
Okay.
Gotcha. All right. So Mr. Loper has stepped down for conflict of interest, and we'll give him our staff first.
Yes, so in this, on the current parcel, 2 tracts have already been subdivided from it, so we've reached our maximum number of minor subdivisions for the 12-month period in which I can sign off on that. Mr. Johnson wishes to continue subdividing and not wait for the 12 months to expire, so our solution was for him to put the remaining tracts into the final plat, major subdivision final plat format. There are no new roads, there's no additional infrastructure. These really are just parcels along the road, but I've maxed out on the number of parcels I can create from this parent parcel for the year. So all lots will be served by well and septic. Staff has reviewed the final plat. We've worked with Mr. Johnson to get it into the appropriate format. All documents are in order, and staff are recommending approval.
For whatever reason, what's on our computer is not more, it's just mine.
19 was taken off the agenda.
That was where we go. Okay.
Because I did the same thing.
We just didn't follow the numbers. Yeah, 11. The number, the software, we're going to change the numbers and give it from the, so it makes it a little confusing.
They're just on
I'll listen to Mr. Craig Johnson, if you'd like to share.
Craig Johnson, what she said. This property is along Fair Street in Clio. So basically, the county's ordinance, you can divide it twice, and whatever you have left counts as your third within a 12-month period. So this is another 5-acre tract that's being sold, accessing off of Fair Street.
Any question, discussion on the board?
I'll make a motion to approve alternative one.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Burdette to approve alternative 1. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. It carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. We've got number 13. No, number 12, I'm sorry. I've got off track.
13.
11 was tabled. Yeah, 12, 13. Okay. Consideration to approve a resolution number 021-037 calling for a referendum to allow an e-commerce Freeport exemption.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Effingham County Industrial Development Authority and the Effingham County Chamber of Commerce have reached out to the county and requested that the attached question be added to the November countywide election ballot. And I'll just read the question really quick. For the purpose of attracting new jobs and investment, shall Effingham County add to its existing Freeport exemptions the grant of an in quotes, e-commerce Freeport exemption to add to the ad valorem taxes of the following: stock and trade of fulfillment center, which on January 1st are stored in a fulfillment center and which are made available to remote purchasers who may make such purchases by electronic, internet, telephonic, or other remote means, and where such stock in trade of fulfillment center will be shipped from the fulfillment center and delivered to the purchaser at a location other than the location of the fulfillment center, as permitted under OCGA 48-5-48.2.
This is not alleviating all inventory?
No, unless there's, and we've got Andy who could possibly answer some of these questions. Brant Herndon could not be here this evening because of a death in the family. Could you would, in his stead, he's sent Andy Crick from the Chamber of Commerce. Go ahead.
And Brant is much more versed in this, but from what I understand, there are 4 levels of the Freeport exemption. The county has already approved the first 3, and the only remaining level under the state law would be for these e-commerce facilities.
We won't be taxing any inventory after this.
I'm sorry?
We won't be taxing any inventory after this, but if it's approved.
I don't know that.
And I will have to find for you the existing Freeport exemptions that we have, and I can send those out to you.
We don't have to deal with it, not doing it.
No.
Because I'm all for, I don't like inventory taxes, I don't know how you guys feel about that, but I mean, that's just a burden on our small businesses and big businesses. It's hard to police, only honest people pay on those inventories, and that's why I was wondering if this is going to eliminate pretty much all the inventory taxes. It's just probably one of those hardest taxes to have and audit, and I've never been felt good about those.
And our board has supported this exemption because we feel like it puts this county at a competitive disadvantage. It's already been passed in Screven,
The
Chatham.
counties have it. They're not paying inventory, only warehousing inventory. They get the warehouses and we don't.
Right. And so Brant Herndon says, you know, the companies come to them and they're interested in property, but the fact that this inventory tax still applies to e-commerce, and even some of the warehousing that's in the county now are starting to do e-commerce. And so this is something that hasn't really been an issue in the county, but it's becoming a much more important issue.
I'm all for it. I'll say for it. I'd like to follow up and find out where we at on this Freeport.
So if we've approved the other 3, the first has to do with it's the level 1, which by understanding we've approved level 1, 2, and 3. This is for level 1 is manufactured goods. Level 2, I'll just read it out to you. I think this should answer your question. The governing authority of any county or municipality may elect with the approval of the voters to exempt goods, wares, and merchandise of every character and kind constituting a business's inventory, which would not otherwise qualify for a level 1 Freeport exemption. Level 1 meaning it was manufactured at the site. So that level 2 would basically exclude any inventory from existing businesses. So that section, I guess, has already been approved.
Okay. No, I'm hoping we're kind of cleaning that up and getting that to where there's no inventory.
I'm not in favor of furniture tax either, in personal property. You buy a computer, you pay taxes on it, in addition to paying sales tax on it.
Should be done. That's it.
Exactly. It's a horrible tax.
And we may want to look at that as well. It's also another thing that's hard to police. And we have to get, our assessors have to get, in fact, I wrote a program for it, said many years ago, we had to audit our businesses when I was, and it's a hassle. So, and businesses struggle with that. That's not $2,500 they got to come up with for all their furniture. Yeah. So anyway. Maybe we can work on that in our workshop. Thank you so much. Good discussion, got a motion?
Make a motion to approve alternative.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Burdette, second by Mr. Kiefer to approve alternative one. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Hearing none, it carries.
I made it back, please. I made it back.
Yeah, I should know that. If the clerk has stepped up, if the clerk would note that Mr. Loper did return for that discussion and that motion and that for item number 13. Okay, item number 14.
Okay.
Let me read it real quick. I was just making a note on the previous one. I didn't make a note on my
Okay.
agenda. Read item number 14 first. Consideration to approve a letter to support the Children's Advocacy Center of Georgia related to the expansion of the Teal House to operate the county-owned building at 204 Early Street in Springfield. Okay, go ahead.
Yes, sir. The Effingham County Sheriff has worked with the Teal House representatives and has recommended support for their expansion into the county. Currently, they operate out of offices in Statesboro, Bullock County. They provide valuable services to the county with regards to forensic investigations regarding child abuse. We do have a representative from the Teal House here who is here just to provide some basic information. I know when I heard this information, I was pretty surprised. And this is so that they could use the 204 Early Street building as effectively a satellite office.
Yes, sir.
So the sheriff's office does not have to bring victims all the way to Statesboro to get interviewed.
That's great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Hi, thank you. Good evening. My name is Lakedra Lee, and I'm a certified forensic interviewer and family advocate for the Teal House Statesboro Regional Sexual Assault and Child Advocacy Center. I just wanted to let you know that Effingham County is one of the 4 counties that is a part of the Ogeechee Judicial Circuit. In addition, the county is a part of the Judicial SART, which is Sexual Assault Response Team, in addition to the Child Advocacy MDT, Multidisciplinary Team meeting. Over the past 2 to 3 years, the Teal House and I personally have seen an increase in sexual and physical abuse cases in Effingham County. The cases have been referred to the Teal House in Statesboro, Georgia, due to the lack of sexual assault services here located in Effingham County. When there is a presented case, the victim and law enforcement and/or DFACS has to travel 45 to 50 minutes to Bullock County, Statesboro, Georgia, to have either a forensic medical examination or a forensic interview conducted in order to collect the evidence that is needed. The time frame for both, including travel time, could range anywhere between 3 to 6 hours. Whether services are needed, this is a disadvantage to the victim and, most importantly, the victim as well as law enforcement, as it takes the resources of law enforcement and DFACS out of your county for that time frame. With the support of Effingham County Sheriff's Office, Rincon Police Department, Springfield Police Department, Guyton Police Department, and Effingham Department of Family and Children's Services, we are requesting approval of placing the Teal House satellite office in Effingham County, Springfield, Georgia, at that said location. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, previously on this night's agenda, we approved the Historical Society for using that during the Fall Fest, and we could simply just work, since this is a satellite office, we'll just work those dates around with you
Yes,
on
sir.
that. I believe it's on about 3 or 4 days.
Yes, sir.
Jimmy, do you want to say something?
Yes, if I could. Jimmy McDuffie. This is a collaboration between us and the other 3 police departments in the community, in the county. We use it probably as much as Bullock County or more, unfortunately, and I hate to say that, but child assault is going up all the time. It takes our officers, one evaluation takes an average of 6 hours a day by the time they get there, get everything set up, and get back. With this office being here, each department has their own investigator. Abby Brown is one of ours. I think she's here tonight with us. We're going to supply the investigators, as well as the Teal House will have people there too. So it's a collaboration of a lot of us trying to get together to do this, to bring something in our community that keeps us from having to go to another county to do it. And there's a lot of different feelers out, if you will, that if you got a minute later on, we'll talk about if you got any questions outside of here. So.
No, I'm excited about it. I did have the opportunity to meet with Jimmy and the local police departments talking about this idea being presented. It's got to be intimidating for our young ones to be taken out of this county to another strange location, place, but have a house that was comfortable, that's set up right, that feel the care and the love and protection. They want to take extra hours. I think it's a great idea that you come up with, and I appreciate you guys working together with the police department to do this. And speak to the board, I think they're going to appreciate this as well.
And also, we have commitments from all 3 cities to help us with financing and funding going forward too, so that'll help. You know, we got to work out all those things once it gets here, but we do have commitments from them as well.
I think that's how I think we need to be doing this board is taking care of the vulnerable, for sure. We're not part in that anyway, so appreciate your oversight in this. Any questions for them about what we're trying to do?
Make a motion to approve all number 1.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Loper, second by Mr. Deloach, to approve alternative number 1. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. And it carries. Thank you guys again for thinking about that and putting that together. It's going to be a huge lesson. So, item number 15, consideration to approve the quote from Esri Incorporated to renew GIS software support in the amount of $50,000.
Good evening again, Eric Larson, Assistant County Manager. I am here with Pamela Melsner, sorry. Our new GIS coordinator, been on the job maybe 2 months. And Chris Reed's our IT director. They probably are the subject matter experts for this, but I drew the short straw. This is our annual renewal contract with Esri. Esri is our platform that we do all of our GIS data storage, map creation, delivery. It's also our organizational method for our server, all of our data and everything. This is a budgeted expense that we incur every year in the amount of $50,000. Be happy to answer any questions or bring them up if there's any specific questions. But as you see in the write-up in the staff report, almost every single office in one way or other within the county government utilizes this software. It's as common as every day as the iPhone and Microsoft Windows. It's just a necessary evil for doing business nowadays, and recommend that you approve the annual contract.
We discussed it outside of this meeting, and I don't like it, but I know we're stuck.
I know we talked about moving away from that when we first started making changes.
And basically, as we said, yeah, you can move away with the still charges, the same thing. So we don't have to have the whole thing, but they're going to say, it's money, so it is what it is.
Yeah, you buy everything, or you go a la carte and spend more money.
I don't like it, but I'll entertain motion for alternative 1.
Make a motion to approve alternative 1.
First, Mr. Burdette, second, by Mr. Ford, to approve alternative 1. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Carries. We'll be patient and push through until we got about a minute on these last 3 items of Ken, so we don't have to come back to the business items for those who are here for business. Then we'll go to our public hearings. Item number 17, consideration to approve the contract 21-25-005 with McLean Enterprises for 2020 Transportation Special Purpose Local Option Sales Tax T-Splosh and the 2021 Local Maintenance Improvement Grant and Big Road Resurfacing Projects.
Again, it's Eric Larson, Assistant County Manager. You're familiar with annual resurfacing contracts this year with the T-Splosh funding and the LMIG funding, both doing resurfacing, hot mix asphalt resurfacing, I should point out, of certain county roads. We combined those into a single contract. We put it out for bid. Low bidder was McClendon, as you see, in the amount of $4,543,000 $464.43, and would recommend alternative 1. The list of roads to be paved are in the staff report. It's a lengthy list. I won't go through every one of them unless there's a question.
It's exciting that we're moving forward on this. We can use that T-Splosh for what you have.
Sorry.
We have to do some more roll call.
No, it's in there.
All right, any questions or discussion from the board?
This was substantially under budget too.
Yeah, I saw that.
Was it $1 million in the budget?
Yeah.
Close to, yes.
Close to 2 million.
Close to 2 million, I think. So that's really good, which helps out with the parkway.
That's right.
Lord bless it on every end.
Makes the parkway hurt less.
That's right, that's hurt a lot less. All right, the motion to approve all
One
21.
question though,
Okay,
on
question.
those, I've got some of my roads that are not on here, that were originally on there. So are we doing some of those roads later?
Do you know which roads it is? Because if they're the ash roads that require,
I know Archer Road in Guyton was on my list.
That's a
it's a full depth, right?
So
That's FDR, yeah. I can go over the list with you. This is the list of hot mix resurfacing for this contract. It's not everything that was in the T-Splosh list. That's a 5-year program.
Okay.
On the project,
And-
the project list that Eric sent out earlier, was today, yesterday, there's a full depth reclamation for this.
That is currently under design.
Those roads are on. It's several miles of the ash roads, we're taking them out and fully cleaning. So this is not the whole T-Splosh, this is one.
Okay.
This is just the hot mix asphalt resurfacing, your traditional mill and fill of a paved road.
I'll make a motion to approve alternative 1.
Second.
Motion of Mr. Kiefer, second Mr. DeLoach to approve alternative 1. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, no. Okay, hearing carries. And we'll revisit that with the projects because it's. on
You said you sent out a list, emailed a list yesterday? I didn't get it.
You have
I
to
don't
make,
want to.
that's the list you sent to me.
I sent a capital projects update.
She forwarded it.
It's 3 pages.
No, I got that.
Huh?
I got that.
Yeah, on there.
That's just a list of the projects. I didn't have the roads.
I do it.
No, I got you. It did not have the utility list. You just had to forward that information.
Yeah, I do have the list of every road on T-Splosh and their current status, and I can send that to Stephanie tomorrow. Yeah.
The board of commissioners and staff, I have questions, we might go over that, make sure those, would be a good time to do it. Let's put it that way this evening. Item number 18, consideration to approve the level 2 countywide project list and unincorporated projects that are associated with the reimposition of the countywide special purpose local option sales tax, T-Splosh, not T-Splosh.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Effingham County intends to put the SPLOST renewal on the November ballot. The current 2017 SPLOST expires June of 22 and lasted 5 years. Effingham County is currently in the process of negotiating, finalizing an intergovernmental agreement, or attempting to, with the 3 municipalities to have a 6-year SPLOST, whereas without the IGA, it would be a 5-year SPLOST. The list we're approving today assumes a 6-year SPLOST and that additional revenue. Approving the list is a requirement of SPLOST, and then it gets attached to the IGA and also the call for referendum. Our hope is to have the call for referendum, the IG, and hopefully the IGA as well on the August 3rd meeting. The requirement with the board of with the election supervisors to have it by the end of August to get on to get to the Secretary of State's office to get on the November ballot. We split these up in very similar categories to how the existing SPLOST is being set, different capital project categories. The difference is this time around, the county is requesting what is called level 2 projects, which only benefit county-wide services as defined by the service delivery agreement. Countywide services would be a service that is basically provided to both the unincorporated and the incorporated residents. An example of that would be the animal shelter or the EMS system. And so there is 2 lists. That list, assuming a 6-year project time, SPOS time frame, and that being 20% off the top, would total about $16 million. And then after that 20% is taken off the top for the level 2 projects, then the remainder gets split based on population, with the county accounting for the unincorporated portion of the county being using the 2010 census numbers, which are the most recent ones we have, a little over 74% of the remainder, which would be 622,400, which would be the Exhibit B or unincorporated project list. And so what we're asking for tonight is simply the approval of the list so that we can send these out and attach them to the IGA. We have received a list from Springfield so far. We are still waiting on Rincon and Guyton. And once we approve ours and get theirs, we'll be able to attach them to the IGA and the referendum, bring it to you August 3rd.
Thank you. Questions for the county manager? A motion to approve alternative 1.
So moved.
Second. Motion, Mr. Deloach, second, Mr. Loper, to approve alternative 1. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Hearing none, it carries. One quick item left, and we'll move to this item number 19, item at the head, consideration to approve contract 21-25-003-2 with Peak Pavement Marketing LLC for local maintenance improvement plan for the safety action plan for safety projects.
Hello, once again, Eric Larson, Assistant County Manager. This is a special allocation of LMIG funding from the state for safety projects. They've given us a list of roads that have indicated a high risk of crash or history of crashes. We put together a bid package for Ziegler Road, McCall Road, and Blue Jay Road for rumble strips, striping, and additional signage. These are, again, safety improvements to existing roadways. These are roads that are also not scheduled for resurfacing or improvements over at least the next 5 years. We received 1 bid from Peak, and we went through 2 rounds of bidding on this. There was a problem with, just a perceived problem with getting subcontractors the first way we did it. So we took some of the earthwork in-house with our Public Works Department, rebid it, and was able to get a bid from Peak Pavement Marketing Company, LLC. Their bid amount is $217,198.38, and we would recommend alternative 1. That is a little over the budget that we had. The grant's $154,600 with a required 30% match, which takes it up to $204,660. However, due to the need for the safety, we really recommend that we go ahead and allocate the additional funding so that we can do all of Blue Jay Road and McCall Road on the project.
Any comments, questions from the board? Hearing none, do I have a motion to approve alternative 1? Motion, Mr. Floyd, second by Mr. Burdette, to approve alternative 1. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Hearing none, no's, it carries.
Thank you.
With that, we can move into our planning board session. Does the board need a 5-minute break? If you push up to your 5-minute break. If you're here for your planning board here tonight, you can take a 5-minute restroom break and get the water. We'll be right back. I'll be back at 6:15.
Oh, I see.
Absolutely, sounds good.
Okay, please put it.
You know, the problem is, it's a call, so you can't have the call too far away from the call. And so, but I'm all for this, but he's not going to get it. Here he is.
our planning board sessions of our agenda tonight. We'll come back to reports, executive sessions later. On those for review of the planning board hearings. On with item 1, which is sketch plan. Planning board has recommended approving an application by Daniel Ben Yezreel as agent of Robert Fletcher and Ned D. Waldauer for a sketch plan for Parker's Kitchen located at 2366 Highway 17 South, Zone B3, map number 326, parcel 17C in the first district.
So you approved the rezoning for this parcel a month or so ago, and at this point we are reviewing the sketch plan. The planning board has already reviewed this. We've had several iterations of the sketch plan. So there was an initial submission that we talked about. We had a phone conference with the project engineers. Then we had a sketch plan pre-application meeting again by phone where we discussed further changes that we would suggest, so lining up driveways with the gas station across Blue Jay, for example. So, there have been a few iterations. In most cases, in every case, staff and the planning board have suggested that every effort be made to preserve the live oak trees that are at the corner of Blue Jay and Highway 17. And the project team did indicate that they were working towards that. So there have been a few variations, a few revisions. And this one this is the one we submitted that was submitted for the planning board, and it shows here there are 2 trees being preserved, and that was the best they could do with the site plan, given the need for septic system, the need for stormwater pond, and for, moving the driveway. So given what Parker's wants to do there with diesel pumps and gas pumps, that is the best that they could do. So that we took that to the planning board with recommendation of approval. We were satisfied in all other site plan aspects of it. A week ago, though, one of the project representatives contacted me and said that the soil scientist was recommending a different location for the septic system, and that was going to push everything forward or over closer to Highway 17, thus eliminating any chance of preserving any of the live oak trees that are at the corner there. So that's the actual change, and just wanted to point that out to you that while they've tried to design around the trees, they've been unable to fit the stormwater pond and the septic system and the configuration that they desire, as well as the trees. The trees were the ones that had to go. So I want you to be aware of that. We're not changing stuff, we're not changing the recommendation. I mean, they're meeting the ordinance requirements up to now. And so given that there was so little time to respond, I'd already submitted everything to the clerk for inclusion on the agenda, so there's no way to rewrite to add anything to the staff report at that point. So we really have nothing further to add. We're recommending approval of the sketch plan based on the fact that it does meet county requirements, and that the county doesn't have any specific requirements for tree preservation. So we didn't feel like we could write that in. But obviously that is up to you.
Okay. Any questions or discussion?
So none of the trees will be left. I noticed some out here on toward Highway 17 area. That's the only questions I've had from the public. How many trees can we save?
Sure. Mr. Chair, members of the commission, if I may, my name is Daniel Ben Israel. I'm the real estate development manager for the Parker Companies. And to your question, Commissioner, we did preserve or did attempt to preserve some of the existing vegetation on the site, the larger oak trees. However, as staff indicated, after doing further investigation of the soil conditions out there, it was determined that the septic field would have to be relocated to the rear of the site as opposed to the south side of the site, and that forced us to shift everything forward towards Highway 17, and thus we were unable to preserve those large oak trees in the final iteration of the concept plan.
I mean, I'm not willing to stop the project, and I know that Mr. Parker always plants lots of vegetation, and I'm assuming that he would try his best to do the same at this location.
Absolutely, Mr. Chair, if I may. We've consulted Whitmer Kiefer Jones, who does the bulk of our landscape design, and we're going to certainly mimic what we've done on other projects on this site, and that is come up with a very robust landscaping plan that will, complement the architecture and the environment to the best of our ability.
Any other discussion or questions? Entertain a motion for alternative one.
I'll make a motion to approve alternative one.
Second. Motion by Mr. Floyd, second by Mr. Loper to approve alternative one. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Hearing none, it carries.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Teresa.
Item number 2 is a public hearing. The planning board recommends approving the application by Countryside Baptist Church for a variance located at 1201 Noel C. Conway Road to exceed the maximum signage in the AR2 zoning district, map number 375, parcel 4, the first district. We're looking at public hearing.
So in this case, the church has an existing sign on the site that's in the lower picture there, and they wish to replace it. And when we received the sign permit application, we realized that not only was it exceeding the size requirement for the zoning district, but it was exceeding the county's maximum size sign requirement in any zoning district. It's not a huge sign, it's just that our maximum sign is relatively modest in size. So this, the proposed sign is going to have an LED message center, and actually at the planning board there was a query as to whether there was a way to limit the intensity, especially at night, and the pastor indicated that was the case, that they took the attendance of that. The property has approximately 535 feet of frontage, so there's good sight lines, and it's on Highway 30. It's across from the South Effingham High School and Middle School. Both schools have large signs, so it's in keeping in general with that area. Let me show you the rendition. This is what it's proposed to look like. It's, again, not a huge sign at all. It's comparable to other signs that we've taken through the various process for churches. So staff are recommending approval of this variance, and with the only condition that it not encroach in the street right of way. This is a state highway, of course, Highway 30, and so any encroachment would be the responsibility of the church to contact DOT to get that permit if necessary.
Okay. Do you want to make a comment?
No, I'm just, I'm Rick Flowers, I'm senior pastor. I just was here in case you had any questions.
Okay, thank you. Usually the variance inside of the commercial area where they're closely packed, the size of the sign, you have to kind of hold it to that, because you can hide other signs and affect the looks. But I'm with you. Everything you listed there, the school across the street, the big signs, the big road front, not commercial parking.
We had done something similar to this for Bible Booth.
Yeah, I don't see why we have any concern that we're setting the precedent by going outside of our street. So I'm looking at these. Any comments or discussion? Yes. You have a motion?
Make a motion to approve alternative one.
Motion by Mr. Floyd, second Mr. Burdette, to approve alternative one. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, no. Motion carries. And we'll be in prayer. I read something on Facebook today about some kids that went to camp.
Yes, sir, we had some children come back from the wilds.
Yeah.
And
So I'm not thinking more mentions to our community. It's just record that there is a spike in our community. Be careful with the COVID.
Yeah.
And then that little spike that the county kids went to,
Yeah,
and
yes,
some
sir.
adults and some children
Yeah.
who were vaccinated.
Exactly, yeah.
So
We're shutting down for a couple of weeks to
we'll
accommodate
keep
that.
you in our prayers, and your kids and your adults, and
Thank you,
maybe our community be more mindful of how we connect.
thank you. We appreciate your prayers. Okay.
Item number 3 is the second reading, consideration to approve the second reading of the application by Countryside Baptist Church for a variance located at 1201 Noel C. Conway Road to exceed the maximum sign size in the AR2 zoning district from map number 375, parcel 4, in the first district.
I'll make a motion to approve the second reading.
Second. Motion Mr. Floyd, second Mr. Logan to approve the second reading. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed no. Hearing none, carries. Item number 4, public hearing. Planning Board recommends approving an application by Pine Hill Group LLC, Matthew Berg, as agent for Susan B. Spivey to rezone 16.95 acres located on North Sea Conway Road from AR1 to AR3 for future development of a multi-family residential community map number 376, parcel number 16 in the First District. We'll open a public hearing and hear from our staff first.
So this land is currently zoned AR1. The request is to rezone it to R3, which is our multifamily zoning district, and that could, according to our ordinance, include single and multifamily housing and some commercial uses. In this case, we've been told this is multifamily. The sketch plan review process, which will be required if this is approved, will require a pre-application meeting where we would learn more. There is a submitted, this is the concept plan that was submitted just to provide information. The zoning district does allow up to 12 units per acre and up to 40% lot coverage, and that's really all that the R3 zoning district provides relatively little guidance, but those are some important features of it. The sketch plan review process, as usual, when we have a sketch plan pre-application meeting, the county engineer, myself, in this case the fire chief, because internal roads are raising some questions already, would be there to answer any questions and also to clarify all of our design requirements. In these kinds of meetings, we've talked about road ownership or water meter provision and location, so we expect those same types of questions to come up. The property is located between South Bend, which is the subdivision, there. South Bend is that kind of magenta color below. That's a planned development, so it's a single-family residential subdivision. It's that color. We've actually changed our colors because it turned out it was way too close to this. Is the only other R3 in the area. This is an R3 zoned tract, but it's not developed as such. It's owned by the church that you just gave the sign variance to. That's just part of their larger tract there. But the other planned development in the area is up here. So the area is AR1 with some R1, and in this case, it's a planned development, but it's single-family residential subdivision.
You said planned development, you're not talking about a PUD.
Yeah, it's a PD. There's relatively little on file as to what features they offer, but it's a planned development, something that has been.
There are two planned developments with, they don't have multifamily housing in this.
No, those are single family. Okay. Yeah, South Bend for sure, and the other one is just a phase of that subdivision.
Okay, very good. Would you like to speak?
Yes, my name is Fred Williams. I'm the developer, and I'm here to answer any questions that you have.
Also, county water and sewer is available in the area. And that's.
What are you showing us now?
This is from Right Spot, actually. This shows the distribution of water and sewer in the area.
Okay,
so
yeah.
there are facilities.
Okay. Is anyone tonight wanting to speak? I don't think I asked that the last item. I should have done that. Anyone tonight speaking for this zoning change? Anyone tonight speaking against this zoning change? Seeing that, I'm going to close the public.
Is
Want to
this,
speak? Wait.
I'm sorry, is this a like a townhouse type thing, or single-family homes, or?
These are multi-family, based in town.
It could be apartments, townhomes, it could be whatever. Now, the sketch plan's not what we're proving tonight, that's what he's proposing. It could be any of that.
I've got some concerns about it, but I don't know a whole lot about it tonight to speak too much to it. You know, anytime we have apartments, we seem to have a little more issues there than we do in single-family homes, but.
Jimmy, you know, might get you hang around as we get into the discussion, because the board, after I close the public hearing, we'll hear from the public, and we might get our sheriff and any staff that wants to help us understand a little bit better the issues that might be considered.
I would just mention this. Of course, the project is not apartments. Projects are townhouses, and they're luxury townhouses, 1,700 square foot townhouses. So there's a lot of difference in the townhouses and the apartments.
What's the minimum square footage?
The living area is 1,750 square feet of townhouse. So that's a large townhouse, of course, and it's a luxury. And these houses, these units would have to have firewalls. It's a whole different code from apartments.
My concern is the density. There's nothing else like this out in the rural area. Typically, we see this in a municipality. I have concerns. I spoke with our District 1 school board representative, and they weren't even aware of this. Now, they were aware that the property was for sale and was presented to them, but they had no idea that we were talking about, I think it's 120 units, 121 units.
Yes.
And they have some concerns about it.
Right. Of course, we've gone through the public notice, and I don't know why they would not have any knowledge about this. We've gone through all the proper procedures. And it's gone before the planning and zoning, and the planning and zoning also has approved it.
Yes, sir, I understand. That's just an advisory board.
Yes.
My concern is it's not consistent with what we see in the district. Typically, we have single-family homes out in that area. And I'm typically a pro-individual rights advocate. I mean, I want people to use the property as they see fit.
Right.
But I also have to look at the betterment for what I feel like is the best for the community or Effingham as a whole.
Right.
Typically, we see these type of developments in a municipality. I mean, that area is all single-family homes. I have tremendous concern about 121 units with green spaces also dedicated to part of the, is this correct, Teresa, part of the detention ponds? 121 units, that's 240 kids, each of them have a car.
Well, let me do this if we can. I'm going to finish the public hearing, close it, we'll have more discussion. Because I'd ask, is anyone here tonight speaking against this rezoning request?
Chairman, I'm sorry, I'm the landowner and I could not hear you back there. I think you called for anyone for the rezoning. Did I miss my opportunity?
No, I'll come back to you.
Okay.
I'll give it to you, but I'm going to finish that. Anyone speaking against? See, no one will go back, and is somebody speak for this rezoning?
Yes.
Good
evening, Chairman and board members. My name is Suzanne Proctor, formerly Suzanne Spivey, so you will see that name still listed on the deed. I am the sole landowner. This land has been in my family for 7 generations. I was born and raised in Effingham County and have no plans to ever leave. When I first considered selling this property, I gave the Board of Education first option since the property does border South Effingham High School. I spoke directly with Superintendent Randy Sherhouse. The school board was not interested at that time. Then, this past November, I reached back out to Superintendent Yancey Ford, who asked me to delay any sale until the Board of Education could meet to discuss and make a decision. And because of COVID, that was kind of a lengthy process. Mr. Ford contacted me in January of this year to say the board was going to have to pass at this time. So I do believe that I did my due diligence as a landowner in giving them first option to purchase. I have lived through most of the development on Highway 30, specifically the subdivision, which was part of the bigger tract of land where I grew up. I did not oppose that as a landowner, and we did not oppose the building of the school, which greatly affected the water flow on my property that I currently own. I understand that the commissioners have a planned retreat next month where they plan to revisit R3 zoning ordinances. However, the current ordinances were acceptable in the board's view when past requests came before them, most recently Jasper Village, located in the unincorporated area of our county. I have numerous examples where these multifamily units are in the incorporated areas of our county, and I'll be happy to share that if anyone would like that. As a current landowner and seller, I have begun the process of doing a 1031 exchange, which would reinvest all of the capital gains from this property back into Effingham County, which is well over $500,000.
I would like to address some of those objections.
Well, there's probably more discussion. I just want to see if anybody from the public is wanting to speak for or against. If there's no one else speaking for or against, we'll close the public hearing, but then we'll let you address continue these questions and comments, and you can address the comments.
Right. So, kind of do that.
Address your questions.
So, you know, this is just a zoning, and of course we've got to come back with a sketch, just like Parkers did before that. And so some of those concerns, which I really understand, landscaping, the trees and things like that. Of course, we've got to come back. If you pass the zoning, all of that stuff still has to be approved by on the sketch plan. And then you're talking about, you're not used to, and this is true, you're not used to townhouses coming out outside of the urban areas or city limits or something. But I've been developing a long, long time, and usually the townhouses leads the cities right outside of the city limits, right outside of that. And right now, Chatham County and Effingham is an explosion. It's an explosion of people coming in. And people cannot afford large houses. A lot of them are large acreage on their yards. And there's a lot of people that are like we're looking at 1,750 square feet of house. We're looking at we zero in on a particular type of person that comes in. And these people would have to afford that, and they would be a clientele that we're aiming after that would enhance the area. So a lot of those concerns are coming up on the sketch plan. But if there's anything that I can talk about on the zoning, if you're just not familiar with townhouses moving out, that's just the way things are growing now. I was the first developer in Port Wentworth when it was hardly anything there. We built townhouses way out. It's just, that's a movement, and that's the way things are moving today.
What kind of price point did you?
They would be maybe $170,000 to $200,000. The last ones we did, we sold them for $150,000. But today, as everybody's reading, lumber's going up triple, everything's going up like that. So today, it's hard even to buy a 1,400 or 1,500 square foot house for almost $200,000. So this would be in competition with that. Nice area. When we come back for the sketch plan, all these objections that you're talking about, we will have to bring it back to you guys, and you'll have to look at it. You say, no, I don't think you have enough parks, so you don't have enough areas, but that would be a second thing. We'd have to come back and prove to you that the subdivision or this area would be something that would be compatible with the schools, compatible with this area of Effingham, or we wouldn't want to do it ourselves. That kind of price range, we've got to attract an upper scale group of people. It's not like Section 8 or subsidized housing. This is a luxury area, and we've done it over and over and over.
The concept, I'm for. I like density. I like the size you're talking about. My concern is that you're right, the sketch plans to come back, but I don't know how much really authority we have on a sketch plan to determine playground areas and so forth like you would in a HUD. So you might address that for us, Tracy. But also, once we approve this R3 zoning multifamily, the property could be sold to someone else tomorrow, and they could bring in 1,200 square foot houses because it's not a PUD and we have a set stipulations. This allows a certain number of units to be on that property. And so I just want your board knows you're not controlling that it's going to be this particular.
That's a good question.
Sketch plan that they're showing. I like the concept of what is shared. I just wish it was reviewed because it's nothing like that in this particular area.
Yes.
I would rather see it in a planned community where we have input on the buffers, the playgrounds, sizes, and whatever can go in the planned community. Tracy, can you answer any of those things and tell me where I'm wrong?
The R3 zoning district takes up very little space in our code of ordinances. There's not a lot of guidance there. There's building setbacks. It really is one of the least helpful sections of the code. So when we've had
least regulated sections
it
of the
really
code where
is.
they say it.
There's no provision. There's no requirement for amenities. There's no requirement for R6, for example, even the plan development. They have requirements of percentage that's set aside for open space, and even percentage within that can be wetlands versus upland. So R3 it's just a very bare bones framework.
And that would be my concern, if it's not a PUD, that we do a planned community where we have input on that. As you said to me tonight, I would not probably be encouraging the board to go against, but I am concerned about just making this zoning, knowing that it could not be what you're saying.
Well, that's a good point. And you're talking about like having a retreat. And she's talking about that it's not really defined on this R3, if I'm understanding what you're saying. And so, of course, we would be willing to let you go to the retreat after the zoning, and we would obey the laws, the rules that you would turn with the R3. Anything that you would see in that R3, because it's very helpful to us, we want to make sure it's a nice place. And we'd like somebody else to look at the thing. So if you took it off and say, we're going to pass, I'm sorry.
No, I wanted to add to that, all of this property is directly on Highway 30. All of the lots across from Highway 30 are already zoned R3. That entire,
I don't think that's correct.
I just looked it up on the tax website.
Yeah, right here, there's the R3s in purple.
I believe it's all owned by Countryside Baptist Church.
Yeah, there's just that one parcel.
I'm not across from Countryside, the school is. I'm right there where South Bend, and if you look at those lots where the orange arrow is, those are R3.
That's your lot, orange arrows.
I'm green, where the arrow is. I'm talking about where the physical arrow is on the map. I just looked it up on the tax website, and some of those are R3, and I can go pull up some names for you if that would help. I'm just saying there is already R3.
Hang on one second.
No, the Q Public may well have that in there. I will say that our GIS is more reliable every single day, so I'm really confident of this. But on Q Public, there are two line items that say have something to do with zoning. One is zone classification. That's not ours. Ours is there's two places to look, and we could pull it up here right now, but this does cause confusion sometimes. It's a classification, and sometimes people do think that means,
Classification,
yeah, and it's a tax assessment thing. It's nothing to do with us. Ours is a little lower down in the list of characteristics on the tax record.
I would say I'm not against this, I'm against the density. What I would like to do, like Mr. Williams said, personally, I would like to table it, look at it as a PUD where we have a little more control, and we discuss it after our retreat to see what we come up with.
This is what I would recommend to Mr. Floyd and his board, is that, because if it may not get denied, if you want to move forward, you can move forward and vote, but if it gets denied, I think it's 6 months before this property can come back up.
That's right.
I don't want to delay what you're trying to accomplish here, because I'm not against density, I just want to make sure it's done well. I'd recommend that we table it for 30 days, give us time to go to our retreat. I'd love to meet you guys next week when I'm around, and so we look at what your plans are.
Yes, sir.
See if that could, I'm not Steve all the zoning, but see if we could put that into a PUD type thing that could be proposed versus. I mean, that would give us a chance to talk with them, have a meeting, and then what they may want to do is withdraw it, so it doesn't have to start over and present that PUD immediately. Everything what he wants to do may be fine, but it would be in a plain committee where we can input on the recreational areas, the green spaces, change. We'll have some input, because if we zone it tonight, my understanding is what you're saying looks very well, but it may not be what's going to be there. It could be
I understand.
anything more. And then the density, we may want to look at the school board and get their input about, are they prepared to take on 100 more children? I don't know that they are. Do we want to do something that's going to tax our residents? So that'll give us a chance to talk to our sheriff, talk to our, it may be a little less density, but it may be a little more productive for our community in those areas. Because one thing I want to talk about our board, and getting off the subject a little bit, is looking at, instead of having R6s and R3s, look at the density B in planned communities, where we do have input to allow people to do what they're probably willing to do, but also protect the properties around in the community as well, so we don't have blights in the future. But that's, my recommendation would be to entertain a motion to table it for 30 days, not the next week. It gives us a chance to go on a retreat,
You'll actually need to postpone it to the first meeting in September because your second meeting in August
It's
is.
still not there. I would propose we postpone it to then. That'll be about 45 days. That'll give us a chance to meet with the developer and the landowner and look at it and see if it's something we feel like we can support in a planned community. But now if the board wants to move forward and go into zoning, I entertain that too. But I recommend a motion to table this to the first week in September, where we could look at it.
Before you do that, I want to offer my thoughts on that.
Sure.
I don't particularly like R3 zoning, but we have that zoning. I cannot find any good reason to not support it. If our ordinance needs to be changed, and I agree they do, we've talked about this, we need to do that, but this is today. This is for the ordinances we have.
I know we have the option to table, and I think it's beneficial that we have the retreat as soon as we do, so we don't delay it or just absolutely deny it and push it out 6 months. I think.
Well, I would like this because I don't notice this type of zoning around any of our other schools.
The school board is not on board. I talked with
this would be an outlet.
my district rep, and she was totally surprised. They said we can't take another 100 kids in South Effingham right now. So I don't know how quickly we come out of the ground, but they're not prepared, from what I understand. So this would also give them time to weigh in as well.
I guess if we were, I guess if we were meeting, we need to have a rep at the school board, if you think, because we'd find out how many kids can the school handle. I mean, like, say we didn't do a R3, say we just did a single family house, and the school board said, well, we can't even handle that. So I'm trying to understand the restrictions, like the zoning's there, so maybe we ought to invite the school board or some representative, sit down and talk with us. Do you understand? It's like I'm trying to understand the objections, and I'm trying to overcome the objection, and of course I don't want to be turned down for 6 months and come back. That everybody understands that. But I'm meeting every requirement that I can see in R3. And I'm trying to do everything I can possibly do to meet the requirements. But I think there's some concern, and I think that I don't want to be turned down. And so I think that the 45 days or whatever it is, but I would like to have as many people there that you're concerned about so we could talk to them. Because we've already gone through all the process, notified everybody, haven't heard anything, we don't have any objections up here, and now I hear that the school board says they can't handle it. So
you don't have any concerns from adjoining property owners?
I don't have any concerns, right.
I hear from folks, and there's concerns about the density.
Well, they should have come here today. I mean, this is we've got a public hearing, and I can't, I'm sorry. So anyway, I would agree to that, but I would certainly like to have anybody that has any kind of qualms about it so that we can address them in a orderly manner, and I could find out and I could bring you the information back. What are your thoughts?
I agree. I hear what Mr. Kiefer's saying too. We have R3 zoning, it's on state highway. There are some positives there, but I think it behooves us to, since we don't have multifamily housing in that area right now, it's not that character, not against it because of that, but it doesn't fit now. I think we need to look at, can we make a higher density work with the right additional restrictions?
Of course, this R3 is the lowest density. I mean, there's lots higher zonings for density. This is only a 12 unit per acre.
We don't have the higher density.
That's our highest density.
It's our highest density.
Say it again, please.
It's our highest
That's
density.
our highest density.
It's your highest density in Effingham County, 12?
Yes.
All right. So like most cities, like Port Wentworth, that's a low density.
We don't want to be like Port Wentworth. We're rural.
Now, we can actually, make one more suggestion, we can actually table this twice, so we could table it to the second meeting, just a chance to meet, and see if anybody wants to move forward. And we can table it again at that meeting, allow our board to be able to consider rezoning.
Yes,
That may get a little faster turnaround if we have enough satisfaction to move forward with the zoning. But I
It's
think,
my district to make a motion, and my motion is to table it to September 1st. Let us have some meetings, let's get through our retreat, and see if we can reach an agreement.
and I will contact you, our staff, to try to get together maybe next week, if you'd like, to begin some discussion, to look at what it might look like, so you'll get some feedback.
All right.
Okay. So a motion to table this until first meeting in September, which is September 7th.
I'll say.
All right, have a motion, Mr. Floyd. I'm trying to put this in the right thing here. Second by Mr. Deloche to table to September 7th, 2021. All right, motion second, any further discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Okay, one no, that's Mr. Keeper. Everybody else is a no. All right, so we'll table this, and then make sure we have your contact information. And Tim, if you help me reach out next week when I'm back in town,
Sure.
we'll get the sketch plans, which what we can do, a chance to talk to the attorney, make sure I can, what we can do legally. I don't want to overstep our bounds either, want to be fair to you as well. Okay?
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your explanation. I appreciate it. So we don't need a second reading on that one, so we got item number 6, public hearing. The planning board recommends approving the application by SFG CH Chesterfield for a PD text amendment located at Highway 21 and Old Augusta Road South to amendment the right-of-way reservation at the Georgia International Trade Center, map number 466, parcel number 8, 8A, 8B, 10, 11, in the 2nd district.
So in 2018, 2018 was the most recent plan development text amendment for what's now known as the Georgia International Trade Center. And in that amendment that you all approved, there was a provision to reserve right-of-way for a proposed right-of-way along the southern boundary of the park, also going into Chatham County. These arrows are roughly pointing to it, and it's included in your packet. That reservation was set to expire after 5 years, so in 2023, that would expire. On June 1st, 2023, that reservation would expire if the county didn't take up the option and acquire it, and then also acquire right-of-way in lands outside of the Georgia International Trade Center tract to link to the Effingham Parkway, which was the goal, to connect Highway 21 and the Effingham Parkway. The developer requests early release from the right-of-way reservation. The changes, because it's a major change, the changes such as street access or alignment and public common areas are usually treated as minor amendments to plan developments, but because this involves the proposed connection between Highway 21 and the Effingham Parkway, because that's in the forefront of our mind right now, staff determined that the request for early release from the right-of-way reservation is a major amendment and merited your attention and approval. The feasibility of the route was put into question when the wetlands were redelineated along the proposed route of the corridor, and the potential wetlands impacts made this connector unfeasible and likely would not be permitted through the Corps of Engineers. As you know, we're also undergoing a transportation master plan process right now in the county, and this corridor actually has not been called out as a proposed, east-west connector. So in many ways, while it was a good idea, certainly a good idea to include it as a reservation when the plan development text was amended a few years ago, it really hasn't sort of played out to be a top choice for any planning that has happened since then as a connector. The developers in the Georgia International Trade Center are, I believe, preparing to sell these parcels, and that is really the reason for the request for early release, to just sort of unencumber the parcels for any uncertainty as to how that can be developed in the future. Staff have reviewed this, and given that the Transportation Master Plan has not identified this as a potential connector, staff are recommending approval of the request to remove the reservation.
I'll be there with the east-west corridor at that location. That was the reason for reservation. I don't see that ever happened.
Special listing action exchange.
All right, this is, make sure I'm the right thing. So we need a public hearing on this. So I guess what you want speaking for this, the request to deny, or not deny, request to remove the restriction.
Right, it's essentially another amendment to the plan development text.
Anyone speaking for this amendment that way?
My name is Matthew Kuykendall. I work for Chesterfield, so I'm just here to say thank you for your time and answer any questions if you have.
And there may be someone who will put it here, that's a hand around right there. Anyone tonight speaking against this amendment? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing and see if there's any question from the commission. If not, entertain a motion to approve alternative one.
Make a motion to approve alternative one.
Second.
Motion from Mr. Burdette, second from Mr. Loper to approve alternative one. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Hearing none, it carries. I'll do the second reading. Consideration to approve the second reading on an application by SLG CH Chesterfield for a PD text amendment located at Highway 21 and Old Industrial Road South to eliminate the right-of-way reservation at the Georgia International Trade Center. Map number 466, parcel number 8, 8A, 8B, 10, 11, and 2nd District. Motion to approve the second reading.
Make a motion to approve the second reading.
Second.
Motion Mr. Burdette, second by Mr. Deloche, to approve the second reading. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, no. Hearing none, carries. Number 8, in the planning board hearings, the planning board recommends approving an application by Drew Ira Boyd as agent for Bethany Trinick to rezone 3.04 acres located at 744 and 796 Old Dixie Highway, AR1 to AR2, to allow for division and recombination of parcels, map number 387, parcel 21, and map number 365, parcel number 34, and 33.
So all of this land is currently zoned AR1. You'll see a lot of that where parcels that are less than 5 acres are zoned AR1 because that's essentially how zoning was adopted. It's kind of a broad brushstroke. And that's fine until the owner wishes to change the property boundary, which is what happened here. We were unable to sign the survey that is splitting just about a fifth of an acre from the larger tract to join it to the smaller tract because the smaller tract should be AR2, so we're requiring that it be rezoned to AR2. This is the proposed survey that we've been unable to sign this far, and this is just that little sliver of the larger tract is going to be added to that so it can be later subdivided.
Right.
And in order to be able to do that, we require that, the county requires that this be rezoned to AR2, so it complies with the zoning district. So staff are recommending approval.
Okay. Anyone speaking for this rezoning request?
Just here to answer a question.
All right.
I'm Drew Boyd.
Anyone speaking against this request for rezoning? See no one, will close the public hearing and see if there's any questions to the board. Do we have a motion for alternative one?
Make a motion to approve alternative 1 with staff and planning board recommendations.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Deloach, second Mr. Kiefer, to approve alternative one. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And it carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Second reading, consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Drew Ira Boyd as agent for Bethany Trinick to rezone 3.04 acres located at 744 and 796 Old Dixie Highway from AR1 to AR2 to allow for division and recombination of parcels, map number 387, parcel 21, map number 365, parcel number 34, 3rd District.
I make a motion to approve the second reading.
Second. Motion by Mr. Deloach, second Mr. Loper, to approve second reading. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And it carries. Item number 10, planning board recommends approving the application by Scott Andrew Hendricks as agent for the Robert and Wendy Pierce to rezone 2.86 acres located on Country Way and Country Court east from AR1 and AR2 to allow for division and recombination of parcels number 344A parcel number 23 and 25 in the third district. Open public hearing.
Yes, so this is Country Acres, and that is the plat. It is a few years old. So originally, these parcels were in line. They were all, it was designed the way subdivision normally is. The parcels were all lining up. But the family members who bought these parcels decided they joined two parcels there for this larger tract, and essentially they took three parcels and re-subdivided them, and the brother lives here and the sister lives there. And now, years later, there's going to be change, I believe. This one is to be sold. I'm sorry, it's here. What they did was they split them there. And the proposal is to give the sister a little bit more land, so she has that nice vegetative area, and that this would be sold. So because this is a major, there are a lot of things going on here. It's AR1 because, again, it predates zoning, and so parcels are smaller than 5 acres. So when I was presented with this, I had to think through what are the steps here. It's AR1, so if we touch these property lines, we have to rezone to AR2. But it's also the desired size of this lot would have taken it under 1 acre, which we can't approve because that it's not allowed at AR2.
You had to give it a little more from the other.
Yeah, they had to give it a little more.
AR2 status.
It's not exactly what they wanted, but it's close. This is an acre. This is a good bit more than an acre. It's here. So essentially, the family are getting what they want. Yeah, this will be 1.86 acres. This will be 1 acre. The family are getting what they want. They'll be able to, redistribute the land a little bit and make fair real estate transactions. And we're getting property brought into zoning compliance. And eventually this will actually, because this is a subdivision, major subdivision, this will have to come back before you as a final plat amendment, or revision. So we would require, we would be bringing it back before you for that signature, for that approval at our next meeting probably.
It's one done scrambled egg. It's been scrambled.
It was very scrambled, yes. But it's a really simple thing. They're just trying to.
Right, I get you. I think you follow. Thank you so much. Good explanation. So we're in a public hearing. Anyone speaking for this rezoning?
Hi, I'm Scott Hendricks, and again, I'm just here to answer any questions. And she summed it up very well.
Yeah, she did a lot.
I'd revisit that.
I'll repeat what she said.
Let me start over.
Anyone tonight speaking against this rezoning? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing. See if there's any discussion on the board and entertain a motion for all things.
I'll make a motion to approve with staff and planning board recommendations.
Second. Motion by Mr. Deloach, second Mr. Worthing. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. Hearing none, it carries. Second reading, consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Scott Andrews Hendricks as agent for the Robert and Winnie Fears to rezone 2.86 acres located on Country Way at Country Court East from AR1 to AR2 to allow for the division and recombination of parcels number 344A, parcel 23 and 25 in the third district. Motion to approve the second reading.
I'll make a motion to approve the second reading.
Second. Motion Mr. Deloach, second Mr. Worthing, to approve the second reading. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed no. Hearing none, it carries. Number 12, planning board recommends approving the application by Lynette H. Tuck to rezone 2 acres out of 10 acres located 5296 Highway 119 North from AR1 to AR2 to allow for the creation of a home site at 422 across from the 41 3rd District. Open the public hearing.
All right, this is AR1 zone land. The request is to split 2 acres off of that, and so that 2 acres has to be rezoned to AR2. And this is actually connected somewhat to the final plat for the Mr. Johnson that we did earlier. This is not directly connected, but it's right next to it. So just for context, just behind here is one of the 2 parcels that was already subdivided in the minor subdivision that I was able to approve.
Okay. Anyone speaking tonight for this rezoning, speaking in favor?
Good evening. My name is Travis Bazemore. I'm here tonight on behalf of Ms. Tuck, and would just like to ask the board to approve the request on her behalf. If you have any questions, I can try to answer them. The main reason for it is she's wanting to give some of the property to some family. So she ended up wanting to keep 2 acres, which spurred the rezoning.
Okay. Anyone would like to speak against this rezoning? Seeing none, we'll close the public hearing, entertain any comments or a motion.
Make a motion to approve with staff and planning board recommendations.
Second.
We have a motion, Mr. Lowe, second, Mr. Loper. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say no. Hearing none, carries. Second reading. Consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Lynette H. Tuck to rezone 2 acres out of 10 acres located at 5296 Highway 119 North from AR1 to AR2 to allow for the creation of a home site, map number 422, parcel 41, 3rd District. Motion to approve.
Make a motion to approve the second reading.
Second.
Motion, Mr. Lowe, second, Mr. Loper, to approve the second reading. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Hearing none, it carries. Item 14, the planning board recommends approving the application by Angie D. Wallace for a variance located at 2855 McCall Road to allow for the placement of an accessory structure in a front yard on R1 zone parcel, map number 413, parcel 6A, 4th District.
Okay, so this parcel, it's a fairly large parcel. It's located on McCall Road, and the issue is that at some point, showing it in our aerial photography, and there was a little shed here on a concrete pad, and the Wallaces have moved the shed to the back, and you can see that here. You can see it right there. That's the little shed, but the concrete pad remained, and it's in the front yard, and I'm not sure how that happened, but it did. And it's really nicely screened from the road. You cannot see any of this when you're driving down McCall. And they came in with a building permit application for an accessory structure to replace the older shed. And at that point, we realized it was technically in the front yard. One thing to point out is that this house is set way far back on the lot. So in its defense, the house itself is over 120 feet back from the road, and this is R1, so this is far exceeds the setback requirements. It's a large lot, it's a nicely secluded area, and then the little accessory building and the pad is set back about 95 feet. I took these measurements off the public, so it's an approximation, but they're set really far back. So if the house itself were at the regular R1 setback, the shed would be in the backyard. But because it's a large lot, they set the house back and they have the shed, accessory building set far back. So while it's still technically in the front yard, because it's in front of the house, it's by any other standard, it's if the house were in its normal position, the position of we'd see in R1, the shed would be in the backyard. So
Understand, Teresa, didn't we not too long ago deal with this, and if the lot's large enough and so forth? It's a similar thing about 6 months ago.
And so in the spirit of that, yes, we felt comfortable recommending approval. That affected, at that time, we chose to stick to the AR zone parcels and keep it at 5 acres. Because again, large lot, not interfere, as long as it meets the 50-foot setback, then people building those accessory buildings.
This complies with what we did back then.
Right, and this is far exceeds 50 feet, but at the time, we didn't realize that there'd be R1 property showing up with.
Is this a 5 acre tract or bigger?
No, I don't have it. I must have it.
Just I'm trying to be consistent with what we did about 6 months ago.
It's 2.69 acres.
Yeah, it's just over 2.5 acres.
Which is a large R1.
It's really large.
Anyone tonight speaking for this, is this a variance? Yes, anyone speaking for this variance tonight? Anyone attending like to speak against this variance? See no one, I'll close the public hearing and hear from the board of motion.
Make motion to approve with planning board and staff recommendations.
Second.
Motion, Mr. Loper, second, Mr. Deloach. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Hearing none, it carries. And the second reading, consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Angie D. Wallace for a variance located at 2855 McCall Road to allow for the placement of an accessory structure in a front yard on a front in the front yard, only front yard, on R1 zone parcel number 413, parcel number 680 Franklin Street.
Make a motion to approve second reading.
Second.
Motion, Mr. Lopez, second, Mr. Deloach, to approve the second reading. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Hearing none, carries. Number 16, the planning board recommends approving an application by Chris Shea and Alice Hurst as an agent for John P. Shea and Rebecca Shea for a sketch plan located on Highway 119 South with the ranch located at 315 Oval Road to allow for the sale of a parcel from the minor subdivision, map number 344, parcel number 26 and 3rd District. Public hearing.
Okay, that line about sketch plan and Highway 119 South doesn't belong in there, actually. So this is on Orville Road, which is
Should be a
on.
variant, right?
This is a variance from the requirement, the restriction on the number of lots on a private road. Orville Road is
So
a
it's
private.
not a sketch plan.
It is not a sketch plan.
I got you.
So it's, Orville Road is a private road off another private road, the Milton Ron Road, which is off a county maintained road, Round Station Road. So it's a large lot, as you see there. I think it is 44 acres, and the proposal is to split it into 3 approximately slightly less than 15-acre lots. And that's not an objection at all. And no time were we objecting to that. The problem is that I couldn't sign it as zoning administrator because this is on a private road, and there are already 3 or more parcels on Orville Road and the Milton Ron Road. And looking into the case history of this sort of general area, I saw that there had been previous requests, not for this parcel, but for other, let me see. Here, at the highlighted one, several years ago, 2007, it's in staff report of 2007, there was a request made to split the parcel. It was denied, and then a few years later, the request was made again and approved. The Milton Ron Road is privately owned by the person who owns that parcel at the end. And again, no objection to any of this, but the problem is that our ordinance restricts my ability to sign a survey splitting additional lots on private roads until they meet county standards. So we had this a few months ago on White Branch Road with Mr. Mitchell, and we will probably continue to have this because there are some areas of the county where there are private roads off private roads and where there's fairly extensive subdivision of land that's already happened, and anyone attempting to continue to subdivide it runs into a roadblock where we're enforcing this provision that additional lots past 3 on a private road need to bring the road, applicants need to bring the road up to county standards or else receive a variance from the board. So that is why it's here tonight.
We may have some questions in a minute. Anyone tonight speaking for this variance?
Hello, I'm Chris Shea. My parents are John and Becky Shea. I'm here to speak for them. We owned close to 80 acres in there, if you can go back to the other screen. We owned close to 80 acres in there, and I actually sold my house, which was at the end, which was 5 acres. But there's 44 acres left on that side of the road. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to protect the neighborhood, because those people that still own, and I still own property in there that I'm not selling, but I'm trying to protect the neighborhood to keep it as it is. It's mini farms in there. I think there's 10 different lots in there now. Everybody in that neighborhood, what we call the mini farm neighborhood, they all have horses or cows or goats or something. I put the property up for sale, which is 44 acres. I had probably 8 to 10 people contacting me about putting subdivisions on it. Because there is, up at the beginning of the road, you see the subdivision that's right there, the entrance. Don Smith owns the water rights to that subdivision, which there's already a well there that he can feed into the property. And off the back side of the property, it's 2,600 feet to the school, which you can pick up sewage up there. I don't want to sell it for a subdivision. So what I want to do is I want to keep the neighborhood and put it in 15-acre lots, which would still be bigger lots than what the other people already have there, and just sell off the 3 15-acre lots. Put restrictions, 2,000 square foot houses, has to be stick-built homes, and do an HOA to where people, and the people that came and to the zoning meeting the other day, they were all in agreement that, you know, it's a great idea to do a HOA where everybody contributes for keeping up with the dirt road and stuff like that. So a lot of good things would come out of busting this into 3 lots instead of somebody coming in and putting a subdivision on it, bringing the road up to code, and then they're sitting around there with looking at a subdivision instead of looking at other people that have basically the same ideas they do.
Okay, thank you. Anyone else speaking for this rezoning tonight, or this variance? Anyone like to speak against this variance request tonight? See no one, we'll close the public hearing and see if there's any question or discussion from the board. I've got a couple of questions I want to clarify, I guess. When we subdivide on the private road, I think, Lee, you have kind of cautioned us, because as we subdivide, let's get this right, you can do 3 lots without being major subdivisions, is that right?
It's not even a major subdivision, minor subdivision issue. It's the fact that our ordinance, section 6.2.
Right, I'm going somewhere else. I'm going somewhere else different from this. But you can come back in another year and you can subdivide 3 more lots if you wanted to. That could happen. I'm not saying that this gentleman would do that at all.
Well, he mentioned he's going to put, I think, you're going to put deed restrictions on it, right?
Correct.
So it can, and that will stay with the deed, correct, Lee?
It would. We have no control over that. That's what he wants to do. I guess
that's always been in the past, just the number of lots that are on the private road for, getting police or fire, EMS. That's always been the issue, and we've dealt with this several times over the past few years. So this one already has several, and I guess if you look,
Go back to that.
Go to the
picture,
plat.
see it.
I guess there's other parcels there that in the future just know that they could come back and want to do the same thing on theirs. So I guess it's just, you've done it before. I don't know if you've done this many lots before, but you've done it before. It's always the same thing. It's always on a private road. It's going to be privately maintained. Nothing's ever going to be brought up to the county standards, and it's just going to stay this way. And I would think most people out there, they know that now. And then hopefully anybody that's buying, they're going to understand and being told that, okay, you're responsible for this road. So yeah, his idea of an HOA, that would be great if we could get everybody out there to agree to that. That'd be the best way to do it, that collective effort to put money in and to maintain it so it's passable. And I don't know the condition of the road. Clint may have
I think fairly decent one, but it doesn't be that way in the
of
future.
that. So that's usually the only concern is just, EMS, fire,
All the
police.
services that need to be out there, and the road gets in bad condition, they call to us to fix it, and we can't because it's a private road. And I know that's the issues you've warned us about in the past. HOA, we don't control, we can't enforce, whatever, that's going to be civil action.
So they can do that with the sale, they can control that.
Yeah, but
They can do those.
we can't enforce it. I mean, that would be civil down the road. If it didn't get done, it would be a civil action. We couldn't help with that.
This is going to keep coming up. Didn't we start this after the Haddon Lake Road, kept having complaints with that? I think it was after Haddon. Wasn't it Haddon Lake Road or something? They had a bunch of problems with the road. They couldn't come to an agreement. We couldn't maintain it.
Same on Goshen Road as well.
Yeah, I feel like people should be able to.
Which I should point out, we still are not maintaining Haddon Lake Road.
What is it? I'm sorry.
We're not maintaining Haddon Lake Road.
None whatsoever.
Right,
No,
but they just quit coming to us.
But the county-
It was an ongoing problem. That was it.
Yeah.
I think we created this to try to
And you have a bunch
stop
of
it in the future, and here we are stopping people from breaking up their property.
Well, I appreciate the fact that he's trying to keep it, I guess, the same as the current neighborhood. I mean, I hate to restrict somebody from, they can't sell a 45-acre asset. But most of the time, and I guess this is terrible to say on record, but most of the time folks have a mini farm or whatever, they're gonna have machinery, and just like I've said many times before, my family, I live on a private road and we maintain it ourselves, and we enjoy living in the country, but we know we're not gonna come to the county and ask for the county to take it over. Exactly.
That's one thing I agree, I appreciate that about this particular application. It didn't give me concern of others that we've seen trying to use our system. They'll do the 3 lots, I don't think that's the intention here, not to see that. And then they'll come back next year for 3 more lots, because that keeps them under the regulation of a major subdivision. That's how they get around not having to pave the road or improve the road before they build. I don't see that in this request at all.
There's a bunch of pretty good tracks that could be split up quite a few times in the next few years.
But it could be that, that's a door that, you know, but somewhere maybe for our portion, we got to address where we put something in there about a policy where we create special service tax districts. When we get so large and we have the ability to improve the road and tax that district, I don't know what we can legally do there, legally. Something to think about when you get so many divisions and housings that allows us to go outside. There's 28 properties on here now. There's a lot of issues with this road. There's no longer as large as, at that point, I don't know if we can legally do something where we could actually go in and make a special tax district, not request, and do the road and tax the folks, because that's who should have done it to start with. Just a thought. We can discuss that and prepare to help us legally.
I mean, this was the same variance we had for the Orangeville property at the end of, and I supported that.
I do too.
Yeah, we've supported times and we've denied at times. It depends on
And this is only 3 people. There's only 3 more people don't live in there. I mean, they said.
I don't have an issue with what I'm seeing.
15-acre lots. And they could also put on the deed that the road will not be maintained by the county also, right, Lee?
They can. I don't know how often that's done, but.
Can we stipulate in the plat that that's no?
Yeah, that's what I was
On the
saying.
plat.
He's the one
As
that
the
said it.
purchaser, it would actually be 2 more lots. There would be 2 more houses in there.
Normally,
I said.
no one's gonna look at the plat, that's the thing. We can put all that in there. I mean, usually at the closing table, there should be an acknowledgement that it's on a private road, and you just tell them that, hey, you're buying property on a private road, and that you're gonna be responsible along with everybody else along that, to make sure it's maintained. And that's the best you can do.
No buyers reproving of the house. Is that, can you maintain the road or a private road?
Right, it's part of due diligence. I mean, it's part of, when you're spending a lot of money on a piece of property in a house, you need to know that it's a private road.
Good attorney would tell them.
That's right.
But I think it's something we want to go back after we go to this tonight and address for the future, because we still have that occasion where it gets built up and then they look to us to put $100,000 on the road and we didn't create the issue, but then we've got to resolve it. So I think we just need to keep looking and talking about.
We did a subdivision years ago, and probably 15 years, 10, 12 years ago anyway. And they wanted to do it, and they wanted to have horses and all this stuff somewhere on the south end of the county. And they don't have the first paved road in there. And the people bought the lot, they ride the horses, and we've never heard a complaint from them since then.
Yeah.
So, anyway, so they kept it like.
And I think that's where it's going to be. I think we had something,
So anyway.
fallback position in case we do have complaints that we have the ability.
And there's a fine line. It can go south, and we just have to know those things on the plat and just do the best we can.
Maybe we can look at those things.
And not that you have to have a mini farm and have a tractor. I was just pointing out that most likely you're supposed to take care of all the stuff.
Yeah, I got a son that lives, brother that lives in there, he retired, he just bought a tractor. And I said, why did you buy a tractor? Because I've been wanting one. I told my wife when I sold my other house. Anyway, he was gonna buy one, so he went and bought it with brand, he don't even have a garden, so he
can take care of the
tractor. He can help on the road.
He can go there and scrape the road.
That's right.
Yeah. He's got the scoop and everything on the front of it.
All I was gonna say is, I think in the past, Teresa made a notation on the plat, we can just use that same language, it doesn't hurt, at least it's there. And that's the language we're dealing with, it's a private road, and should be privately maintained.
So is there any other question, discussion? Yeah, I'm going to entertain a motion, I think the way I was saying it, to approve all alternative 1 with staff and payment recommendations and our attorney's recommendation just now to note this plat.
Staff did not okay it, like you said, you can't.
I'm sorry.
You can't do that. The planning board
Okay.
made a motion to
Approve the planning board.
So I have to make a motion for planning board recommendations.
Okay, which is,
This stipulation.
The motion is to approve with planning board stipulations and our attorney's recommendation to place the language on the plat that we did previously. Is that good?
Regarding private roads.
Huh?
Regarding private roads.
Regarding private roads, yes.
Yes.
Such a motion? That's
That's
second. I'm not going to try to repeat that, it's recorded. You got it. All right, we have a motion by Mr. Deloach, second by Mr. Deloach. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Hearing none, it carries. The second reading, consideration to approve the second reading of the application by.
Mr. Chairman, you can't, you added a stipulation.
Stipulation, I'll do second reading because we had the.
I thought we can if we have to. When can we?
Not adding, if you're taking stipulations away from what was presented from the
So
planning
that's what
board,
we did
then you
last
can
time.
proceed with the second reading. But if you're adding anything, you can't.
I think the terms and regulations are good, so we'll do our second reading at the next meeting.
Mr. Chairman, it's not a requirement on the private road. We add that language anyway to the plat, so
That's a
after
staff
that,
level, that's
So
a,
that's
that's a policy.
We, that's how we enforce the.
that's how we do it. That's how we do it for any property that's on a private road.
Okay.
That little below clear
So
language.
I'm
So I
gonna
think
ask
that
the-
would just be planning board recommendations.
I'm gonna ask, I don't think it's any problem, order to ask for the motion to be redone to just include planning board stipulations.
Make a motion to approve, planning board recommendations.
Can you set that second? Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. And it carries. And we'll let staff handle
You do the second reading.
Yeah.
and there will be second reading. Motion, consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Chris Shea and Alice Hurst as agent for John P. Shea and Rebecca Shea for a sketch plan. Get the sketch plan.
Make a motion to approve.
No, not my things, I got the sketch plan. For the
Second.
variance located at 315 Orville Road to allow for the sale of parcels from a minor subdivision, number 344, parcel 26 to in the 3rd district. Now, motion for second reading.
Make a motion to approve, second reading, and that's in the 4th district. It's only in the 3rd district, but it's
Not
not
necessarily
in,
all kind of issues.
it's in the 4th district.
I'll say.
Who's proving this?
Staff.
I have a motion of Mr. Weber, second Mr. Deloach. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no.
and he seconded this
And
one.
it carries. All right. That was simple. What you got? Planning board recommends item number 18, approving an application by Travis Bazemore to rezone full out of 11.7 acres located off of Neely Road, AR1 to AR2, to allow for the division of a parcel on that number 461, parcel number 12 of the dead district. Open the public hearing.
So this parcel is, it's 11 acres, it's AR1, and the request is to rezone 4 acres, which is going to be split off from it, to AR2. And the applicant has given us a draft plat, which also shows that on this side of Nelly Road, this is going to be, 4 acres will be split off, leaving, I think, about 5 acres, leaving 5 acres. And on the other side of Nelly Road, what he's actually planning to do is split the entire north. I'm looking at him right now. They could split all of that and give it to family members who own the parcels. So really, he'll end up with just these 2, and then I guess those would be sold. But it's sort of an interesting solution to a parcel that's split by a road and maybe potentially unusable portions on one side, just to split it among family members. So staff are recommending approval of the rezone.
Okay, you want to open the public hearing, anyone speaking before this rezoning?
Travis Bazemore, I am the property owner of the property. Have family pretty much all around me except on the very back, and I'm going to be selling my house, so I was trying to keep as much of the property kind of with family, and so I'm giving some across the road to some family, and then I'm going to keep 4. And I was hoping I'd have 10 acres on one side so I wouldn't have to come up here and do this, but I had like 9.5, so I'm having to sell like 5.5 acres with the house and keep 4.
Anyone tonight speaking against this rezoning? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing. Entertain a motion.
Make a motion to approve alternative.
Second. Motion by Mr. Kiefer, second by Mr. Burdette to approve alternative one. All in favor say aye. All opposed no. Hearing none, carries. Second reading, consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Travis Bazemore to rezone 4 out of 11.7 acres located off of Lee Road from AR1 to AR2 to allow for the division of the parcel map number 461, number parcel 12 in the 5th district. Motion.
Make a motion to approve second reading.
Second. Motion by Mr. Kiefer, second by Mr. Burdette to approve second reading. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed no. Hearing none, carries. Item number 20, the planning board recommends approving an application by Douglas Edwards as agent for Leland Properties LLC for a variance located at 169 and 183 Commercial Court to waive the 50-foot buffer requirement between commercial and industrial zone parcel, that is the 465B parcel number 12 and 13 in the 5th district.
So in June, you approved the rezoning of these two parcels, which contain warehouse buildings, and the reason that you were requested to rezone them was that the applicant, the prospective tenant wished to do gun assembly, and in our ordinances that seemed to fit into an industrial category of metal products assembly. So when the ATF called us to ask if the zoning district was appropriate, we said no, so they rezoned it. But then during that review process and at the planning board, we realized we hadn't accounted for buffers. And so in order to just do a little housekeeping here, we're bringing the variance before you to consider. This is a developed business park. There's no way to accommodate new buffers for the industrial zoning. As you know, this is the the warehouse tract that we all rezoned last year. That's the industrial park we're talking about. And it's just one of those things where we would never have known, we would never have told them they needed to rezone, except that ATF called us to say, is this an allowed use? And we said, well, no, it's really technically not. And so the only way to fix that is to rezone, but then the whole domino started falling, then we need to account for the buffer. So we're asking, the applicant we're asking that you just approve this, because there's really no change. This is not going to create any negative impact on the surrounding businesses.
Okay. We're in a public hearing. We'll see if anyone wants to speak for this waiving of the 50-foot buffer. Anyone speaking against waiving this 50-foot buffer? Seeing no one, close the public hearing. Entertain a motion.
Making a motion to approve alternative.
Sorry. Motion, Mr. Kiefer, second, Mr. Burdette, to approve alternative one. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed no. Hearing none, it carries. Second reading, consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Douglas Edwards as agent for Leland Properties LLC for a variance located at 169 and 183 Commercial Court with a 50-foot buffer requirement between commercial and industrial zone projects. Map number 465D, parcel number 12 and 13 is 5th district.
Make a motion to approve second reading.
Motion, Mr. Kiefer, second by Mr. Loper to approve second reading. All in favor say aye. All opposed no. Hearing none, it carries. Last public hearing tonight. The planning board recommends approving an application of Tony Gunn as agent for Patricia B. Anderson to rezone 2.75 acres located at Holly Lane from AR1 to AR2 to allow for the division of the parcel map number 476, parcel number 13 in the 5th district.
So this 2.7 acre parcel is zoned AR1, and it's one of these remnants of when zoning was adopted. I did make sure to check that Holly Lane is a county maintained road, and it is, so staff felt confident in recommending approval of this one. This is merely an effort to split the parcel as indicated on this slide here to add a home site.
Okay. Open public hearing. Anyone speaking before this rezoning tonight?
Hi, I'm Tanya Gunn. I'm here for my mother, Patricia Anderson, and we just are hoping to get this land
rezoned for my son. She's giving him the acreage.
Very good. Anyone like speaking against this rezoning? Seeing no one, we'll close the public hearing and seek there's a motion.
With the discussion, I make a motion to approve alternative one.
Motion Mr. Kiefer, second by Mr. Burdette, to approve alternative one. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, no. Motion carries. Second reading, consideration to approve the second reading of an application by Tanya Gunn as agent for Patricia B. Anderson to rezone 2.75 acres located at Holly Lane, AR1 to AR2 to allow for the division of the parcel number 476 across from the 13th and 5th district. Motion.
Make a motion to approve on second reading.
Second. Motion Mr. Kiefer, second Mr. Burdette to approve the second reading. All in favor say aye. All opposed, no. And it carries. That concludes our public hearings for tonight. That concludes our general business, so we'll go back to our reports from commission administrative staff.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, just a couple of, three things I wanted to bring up. First off, there's been a request, and certainly it's warranted, to begin the updating of the status of COVID infections again as a result of the recent climb that we've had in the region. So we will be updating the website with that data. It's a little bit more difficult to find now, whereas before it was easily disseminated. So we're just going to gather it, put it up every couple of days to let folks know, but it is a noticeable difference. Also, there was a couple of emergency purchases that we're looking to making, and we will probably bring them up at the next meeting. One of them is, as you may know, that the culvert under Old Louisville Road has collapsed, causing us to close the road. We're going to do an emergency. We're going to try and get 3 proposals on it to get emergency replacement for it. And that was over the weekend. And also, I think it was yesterday, we had a power outage, which we noticed the failure of the generator on the North Tower, which we're going to get 3 quotes to replace. But we're going to have to proceed with it just to get it replaced because we didn't have enough time to get it on the agenda tonight. And just wanted to keep you abreast of those. The purchases will be made, and then we will bring them to you on the August 3rd.
Very good. Stephanie?
Yes, sir. List of things I'm going to try to get through very quickly. First, and you all are very familiar already with the Reconnect conference that's going to be held in November. I've received responses from a couple of you on being registered for classes. That will be taken care of. If you plan to attend, I need to know so that we can get you registered for the proper classes. ACCG is also having a fall regional meeting on loss negotiations and redistricting. It's going to take place at various locations across the state. The one that's closest to us is going to be in Bullock County on September the 29th. If you are interested in attending that meeting, let me know. Commissioner Deloach has already informed me he wishes to attend.
I'm interested in doing that too, if you put
Okay.
We'll be down on the
Okay.
redistricting and loss.
That's on September 29th.
One day deal. Just a
One day.
one day deal.
Where's that?
Bullock County.
Bullock
So
County.
we can-
At Ogeechee Tech.
I will respond to the reconnecting.
Okay.
Apparently, slipped through the cracks.
Okay, got it. What else? The 35th Chamber Annual Meeting is going to be on August the 19th at 6 o'clock right across the street at the local memorial. You all are aware that we do receive 8 tickets under our professional services agreement. I was asked to get a head count of those of you that wish to attend.
What is this meeting?
The chamber meeting. The chamber annual meeting.
What's the meeting?
I won't be out of town.
You'll be out of town.
What day is that?
August the 19th, that's a Thursday.
When did they set that recently?
It's been a couple months. I just found out last week. I had to search it out, actually.
What time?
6 o'clock.
Anybody else give a notice that you're gonna be there, so that she's got eight tickets, right?
You will be in attendance. For two? Okay. All right, moving on. ACCG, once again, local redistricting webinar is going to be held tomorrow. I sent that email out to you all maybe last week sometime. It's for you to register if you were interested in that webinar. That starts at 10, it's from 10 to 11. Your EOM monthly report has been placed in your boxes. And McCall Road and Effingham Parkway groundbreakings. Okay, so, yeah, need to know what dates are best for you all. I do have a suggestion, maybe to consider July the 30th or August the 2nd, which is a Monday. July 30th would be a Friday.
McCall Park.
That's next week.
McCall Park.
What was the alternative to the 30th?
The 30th or August 2nd. That's the following Monday. 11 o'clock.
Who's deciding the Parkway? That's going to be DOT deciding those dates.
No, I think it's kind of up to us.
Maybe we want to reach out to this Ann
Reach
Purcell
out,
and
make sure they're available.
see what they're.
Should we come up with some dates first?
Yeah, those dates work good because of a board meeting, so most of us will be around. We can check it in and see if August 2nd or that Friday can be done.
Okay, so I was making a suggestion for those dates from McCall Road, but I would think for that event, because we'll need to invite, big areas, so we need to do it in September. No, McCall Park was the date.
How much is McCall Park in the park?
No, I didn't get to that one.
Whatever.
Send it in an email.
So the parkway, should we put that further out and give the
Yes,
a
sir.
chance? That's what I was thinking too.
The July 30th or August 2nd date was for McCall Park.
Let's do the 30th.
We don't have time to order red carpet. Roll out of them.
That's right. So the 30th is the recommended date from Commissioner Burdette for the McCall Park. And then we can look at the date, you can give us some dates.
In September, right?
In September.
For Effingham Parkway, right?
Probably would be a good time.
What time do you take it for the 30th?
11 o'clock?
If that's good.
And then September, I'm going to be out of pocket almost the whole month except that up to that first meeting. I'll be here through the 7th, and then I'm going to be pretty much out of pocket. So if we could do it in September in the first week, either the 1st through the 7th, anytime there, that'd be great. But try to avoid, because I'd love to get one up, but I'm going to be.
Okay, so Monday the 6th would be a holiday, so would you want to look at the 3rd of September?
First, second, or third, September, or the 7th. We're meeting on the 7th, right, so we'll all be around.
Right.
We can meet early in the day, so first, second, third, or 7th works for me, but I'm going to be, I can make the 8th work, but after that, I can't make it work.
Anybody else? Do you want to do it on meeting day, on the 7th, if possible?
For McCall Park.
No, this is
for
talking
Parkway.
about the parkway now. I'm trying to put on far enough to the
I wouldn't want to do that the same day.
It's a meeting.
It's a meeting. I mean, that's going to be a big event.
Okay.
And plus, I mean, we're down south, so I don't really want to sweat out the sun for 2 hours and sit at the meeting. That's just me.
So we're going to have refreshments and all, make it a really big, we just be a, okay, we're going to be there, but it's just going to be a 30-minute photo walk.
So Friday the 3rd, can we consider that?
Hey, we've worked on this thing for 15 years. We need to get more than 30 minutes.
We need to get the hospital.
Be a big deal.
So they can put one on.
What's Labor Day?
You're right.
What day is Labor Day?
Where you don't have it at?
Labor Day is that Monday.
Labor Day is on the 6th.
We should avoid that weekend. A lot of people will be.
For the whole weekend, okay?
Can I hold a microphone at some point during that?
Yeah. We'll touch upon some of that. Yeah, I'll think people will be going out of town.
Who do you think we need to, consider Hickman?
We need to get a list of,
See,
we need a list of folks. Probably be good to have a couple of the commission meet with you and let's make a list, get some dates, and get it out. You want to try to do that next week?
Yeah, immediately, because we want to get good notice for that one.
Yep. When is the contract actually going to start construction?
It's GDOT. It's GDOT contract, so my guess is they probably gave a decent amount of lead time on this. What do you think?
They awarded July 9th. They could have given them as much as 10 to 14 days before they have to commence work, but
Yeah.
I don't think that needs to affect the date of the groundbreaking.
So they can start working on that.
Yeah, that's right. And same with McCall Park is, they technically started working on it, but, for ceremonial purposes, we want to have a groundbreaking. And for the fact that we spent $20 million. And for the record, I would like GDOT to pay for the refreshment. Just want that.
You may even do it late, make it either the first of October, or you could do it at the end of August. And it still gives us a month and a half. Is that enough to plan it, a month and a half?
Puts a lot on this, the retreat.
Right, your retreat.
That's true, yeah, retreat, 26,
Right.
27, 28.
27, 28.
Yeah.
I don't know what the etiquette is, but once those things start, how quickly you need to have the groundbreaking or whatever. So I'm sure as Ann could tell us.
I'd love to be a part. That would work, I guess. I'd love to be there. That was all right there.
Always.
Well, maybe we can find, let's find as much information we can, start putting together a list, I'm gonna suggest that. And then maybe Monday, let's get together, reach out to the commission, see who would like to be a part of that. And let's make the list, look at some dates, and then we'll communicate that with Ann.
Okay.
It's the director's name.
We'll do it. And
Russell, yeah.
okay. Lastly, on our Zoom calls, I think because there are people on the call at times, but we're not recognizing them. So if at the beginning, if we can ask who's on the call and get the names of those individuals.
Are we still doing the Zoom calls?
We are.
Yeah, I see on the computer if there's people online. And, like today there were 2 people online after I think the Guyton thing went through. They hung up and no one came back. So we'll get, I don't know how clearly they could hear either. So they could hear me if it's right in front of me, but not necessarily you. But we can do that at the beginning of the meeting. Yeah.
We worked on a list before then, and we'll look at some dates and maybe about Tuesday or Wednesday we can get the board, see how it fits. And probably hear back from DOT anyway.
Right.
They ultimately choose the date.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. That's all I have.
Anything else for any of our staff? Okay, nothing board.
I'm good.
I'll say what I always say, I think we need to put some articles in the paper at least once a month on some of these projects we've awarded, because we're voting. SPLOST is here, right around the corner. We're gonna let taxpayers know that, hey, we just voted on T-SPLOST and we're rolling forward on it. One thing I haven't mentioned before, but I think it'd be good to have some stories as well, is some of this master planning we're doing. And I think that's going to be crucial information on some big dollar decisions as far as roadways and water and sewer in the future. And I know we always know what's going on, but the general public has no idea what's going on behind the scenes, and I think it'd just be good if, I mean, just, we put something out there, PR-wise.
And to that, we've actually prepared a press release that we're going to send out first thing tomorrow morning. The chairman has reviewed it on the T-Splash contract award. T-Splash contract award. With the McCall groundbreaking, there's some SPOS funds that are going to that. So we're going to be doing that similar to the way that we did the gymnasium with the big penny, so folks know. And when we do these roads, we are in the process of procuring. Lara's helping us with this. That we can either put on like the speed limit signs or the street sign, or if it's an intersection like McCall Blue Jay, the curve signs. It's just a rider to the sign that will say that was a T-Splosh funded project. And so we're gonna try and get the word out as best we can on that. And as we move these projects down the SPOS list, we'll be letting folks know. When we do the grand opening of the new administration building, we'll certainly let folks know that's a SPOS project as well.
Yeah, and I hear what Mr. Lynch is saying. I think it'd be good. I can help him if you like. I'll be here next week. We create some articles in advance related to master planning for solid waste, related to drainage and what's coming up, and even like when I reviewed this rollout of this article about the T-Splosh, we added some language so this is not all we're doing. That's one thing I noticed was missing. But that's a good list. We're doing a lot more than that, so they actually get that good language right. But this is just the beginning of the T-Splosh work.
Exactly, and Mark is real good, and not that the other papers would be, but it's real good about putting whatever we want. But what I found is, as long as he's got that notice, like there's pre-written articles, I mean,
yeah.
I know he
And we need to put it in a prominent place, what he's saying. You have to pay for it.
Well, yeah, I've also mentioned, one of the kind of, we're coming up with the next meeting, we're going to have a kind of a change of title for a couple of our employees. One of them is Laura, and change of job scope, and one of that is going to be taking a lot of those public information responsibilities on to make sure that this information gets out to you.
I know the sheriff has somebody on his staff that helps with information that might tell them Gina.
And just so you know, Gina gets a little bit extra bump because she's supposed to be helping y'all get that information out. So if you need her, just let us know. That's part of her job description, so she's there.
So then we can come up, I'll give you guys make a list of some of the things that Jimmy mentioned that I'm thinking about. Let's hit it maybe every other week.
That project list, we can kind of go through that.
I'm not going to go with my questions tonight, because I've got numerous updates I want because it's so late, but I'll give it to you tomorrow maybe before I get out of town on these things. But that's a good list to go and highlight 2 or 3 of those projects. Get Virginia to help us with it as well.
The last thing I'll mention, and I could have missed this before, but I thought it was a pretty cool email. I can't remember if that went out today or yesterday, I guess from HR, about the folks that got promotions. I thought that was really cool to see that, good morale. Saw the fire, deputy fire chief, is that right? This is the first one we've had, or just recent first one? Okay. All right.
And these might be good things to be in the paper.
Yeah.
It's a good morale boost there too. So I think there's a lot of opportunity for what you're talking about, the missing to communicate. And I know we got a lot on our plate, so I'm not throwing rocks at our staff about keeping the paper, because my goodness, I don't know how you keep up with all we got going in this growing community. But it's good, like I said, people don't realize what the challenges we have and the growth that we're doing, and the promotions that are going on.
And if I missed those emails before, I apologize. I know, I saw this.
Sarah just started doing them.
Okay.
You just made her know, so.
That's all I have.
I see all the ones about welcoming the new staff. I don't see the ones about promotions so often.
the only thing I'll mention, and Sheriff, you may know, the Hero organization is gonna have the little fishing rodeo. Do you know anything about that? I talked to Miss Susie Day, but she was here earlier tonight, but I talked to her, but she's wanting to have something for the, public safety, first responders and their families at Baker Pond, just to have a little fishing rodeo for the kids, give out prizes. And she set a date, and I need to verify it. It's either August 21st or 28th, I'm not sure. So just wanted to mention that. I took it upon myself to say they could certainly go out to Baker Pond and do it. That's all I have.
You were talking about COVID earlier. I've had a couple of people reach out to me and ask, why aren't we giving any more guidance, communication on, what the county's doing, how can we address that? And I know no news is good news, but things are changing rapidly, and how we put that out as a county that we're going to, at least something to say, we're going to adhere to CDC standards, and this is what we're doing, and pointing to the website when we got it by email. We did that in public. Is it seeing that? A few people were out there. What are we doing? What's good for our area?
Right, and so, we're gonna restart our stats that we were providing to the public, because now that, the email that went out, if you dig deeper into Coastal Health District's website, you find some of the other stats, and they're clear, they show a clear pattern. With infections, but we want to get other information out there to folks, like hospitalizations, deaths. I don't think we're seeing any sort of increase there, but we're going to start getting that information out. We're going to start getting the vaccination information out the best we can on the Facebook page, do press release, that sort of thing, and see what we can do.
Yeah, my purpose of sending that out to everybody was not that we need to set any more guidance, but we need to make people aware that there is a spike and there's a need to get the vaccination.
Right.
That's the do our part. We see them just encouraging people to get vaccinated. I'm not suggesting they put the mask back on or shut down businesses or give us guidance. I think that there's just to encourage our community. You got access to vaccinations, get vaccinations.
Right.
Because there is a spike in the community. The church that spoke to it tonight, they had 6 youth and 3 or 4 adults come down with COVID. And so they have been closing their church for the next, because there's been so many contacts for 2 Sundays, for 14 days to see how bad it is. And that's what can happen if we don't get vaccinated. So
I'm not sure where the lapse is happening for the transfer of information with the county, but being on the hospital board, we're still getting it through DPH. And the last report showed over the past 3 weeks, the rate increased from 1.3 to 1.7 or something like that.
1.3 what?
1.3%. Let me make sure I'm saying that right.
1.7 infections?
1.3% to 7.3%.
Typically, yeah. The chart spike I saw was pretty high.
Yeah,
that's pretty good.
Over the past 3 weeks.
Yeah. So it's a big high spike. But once again, we don't know how that relates to hospitalizations and deaths. I think that's much better. But this Delta variant is more contagious. I think the key is I don't think that's the voice we can say we need to do our part in encouraging people to be vaccinated. And whether it's put links on the website or put something in the paper, Board of Commissioners recognize from Department of Health that there has been a spike. We'll make people aware of that. You do need to get vaccinated.
Yeah, and we can, that's right, we can encourage you vaccinated, and if things keep going the way they're going, we could we could do a resolution in 2 weeks. Just so that tends to get good press with kind of vaccination. But we'll get the word out there, do what we have to do, press releases, sponsorships of vaccination, kind of like the little events and stuff like that. Whatever we got to do, we'll I'll talk to DPH and,
I like the resolution.
yeah, because they're gonna lead it, it's just that, you know, we need to get the word out.
Yeah. That's what I'm just saying, what part can we do? to get that?
Right.
That's good.
So just speaking of the hospital board, I know we talked about changing those requirements so we can reach outside the district and put good people on the board. You know where we're at with that part?
I'm sorry, I was reading an email, I apologize. You were
Okay.
saying,
Speaking of hospital board, we spoke about
Yes.
changing those requirements so we could get qualified people rather than trying to get them into the confinements of a district.
that is correct. So the board is ready to begin interviewing candidates. So, but they also requested a letter of support of what you just stated, that you are in favor of allowing citizens that are outside of your district but represent your district.
So coming from my district, letter of support saying this person, although not in my district, I feel well qualified.
It'll be a letter of support collectively from the board. So that will come on August 3rd.
I see, okay, that's coming. Let's go on to things.
So one letter, we all sign
One letter from the chairman, from the
Approved by the
board.
board resolution.
Oh, waste cans, are we gonna do that this year?
Yes, I had a meeting with Atlantic Waste on this, and the issue is doing it right. He thinks he's got a transfer station opening up, I believe, at the end of this month, which would give him the capacity to keep up, which we had trouble doing last year. So we should be. I'll follow up with him this week to find out, you know, what that date is, and then once that date is, we can do it shortly right thereafter.
Yeah,
So
we
it's
used to
within
do
the
that
next couple of
in the
weeks.
spring.
What?
We're kind of behind that, we used to do that in the spring.
Yeah, he had a labor problem to get enough staff out there. He continues to do that, but he's kind of catching up on things right now. So, and that transfer station would help.
The only other question, we'll keep it on our time, but where are we at with this wastewater treatment ordeal we're looking into?
Oh, we got a response that our request, that our letter was received from EPD, and they're just in the process of reviewing it. They have not gotten back to us yet.
I'd still like to do something on YouTube, charge EOM with doing something, you know, going through the process, so they can see what we saw in that presentation. I think it would avoid a lot of problems if we chose to even look down that path.
Right.
Get the education part of it. We've seen.
I think that's the intent. I think we should try to get the letter out first.
Well, once we get that response from them, then it really kind of starts the process of education. Because if we get the response from you and said no, there's no.
I just don't want to get too
There's no
far down the
allocation.
road and then you've,
Yeah.
you know, we've got havoc and we don't need havoc.
That's right. We get ahead of it. I got you.
Well, you don't have to have it, but you just get ahead of it.
Well, at least it'll be informed havoc.
That's right.
Educated.
It's educated. That's all I got.
What's the timeline on completion of the roundabout on 17? You said they were going to shut down 2 more times there.
I didn't get a chance.
You didn't hear me? The roundabout at 17 in Blue Jay.
Oh,
timeline.
yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know it was going to be a 3 shutdown project. I thought we were going to knock it out. Now it's back to a 4-way. And Eric mentioned today there was going to be 2 other weekend shutdowns.
Do I need to come up to the mic and I just scream loud?
Say again?
Do I need to get up to the mic and I just talk loud? It is a state project. We have nothing to do with it whatsoever. I do know that it's like a 90 or 120-day calendar scheduled project, and they have 3 shutdowns. They just finished the first one. So they're planning on moving pretty fast on it.
Just talking about the press release, just getting that information out. I mean, we did have the signs up and all that, but I think people were surprised that.
DOT did a press release. I don't know how they distributed it to whom, but they did do one.
We get those, I haven't seen that particular one. I've seen the ones on 1695, and as I just missed it, I tried to read those, because it tells you about.
Somebody shared it on our website, on our Facebook page.
Yeah, there was some, it was saying it was going back to a straight intersection now. I mean, it was just misinformation.
Yeah, well, it's,
Not our fault, I mean, nothing.
right, we were just sharing, but anyway, if you can find that out, I think we need to get that out as quick as we get it.
Yeah, I did not get it sent directly to me, but I will call the DOT guy and ask him to include me in the distribution. Then I'll make sure Stephanie and Laura get it so we can get that on our media. But that's a project that's totally on them. I just happen to know the schedule because they were asking us to sign off on the detour. We're using the county road as part of the detour, so we had to agree to the detour.
Just things like that, misinformation can hurt us with other T-splots and costs. I say, man, these guys don't want to do it, it's not anything to do.
We can call that a T-Splosh project. Somehow tied to T-Splosh, who knows?
I'm saying, yeah, bad information hurts us. It might be good to get something out, but somehow or another.
Yeah, well,
In these announcements that, hey, what's happening, there's a BOT project, it is a roundabout, it's a 100-day program. But get something out, and it's not going to be a full waste time.
right.
Yeah, people.
So I think what we were trying to say is that during the construction, it may convert to a four-way stop. And eliminate the circle that's already there, for a short period of time. But we basically cut and pasted GDOT's press release, so we'll give them some feedback on it that could be worded better.
Anything else?
Yes.
Is there anything else for the board tonight? We have a need for executive session?
No, sir.
Thank you. All right, let's see. There's no executive session minutes, so I guess we'll pursue a motion to adjourn. Motion to adjourn. Motion from Mr. Burnett, second by Mr. Deloach to adjourn this meeting. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, no. Hearing none, we stand adjourned.
Yeah.
We can't read it.